Okay, well, good morning, everyone. We have 162 participants. This is an amazing turnout, and the numbers keep growing. We're gonna first introduce ourselves, the MCs of today. Hello, my name is Fardo Zacuso. I am the current African Diaspora Youth Conference coordinator this year. I'm also a fourth-year psychology student at the University of Windsor, and this is my third year working with ADYC.
Hello everyone, I'm Rawan, and I am the internal coordinator for the African Diaspora Youth Conference. This is also my third year working with the conference, and I'm a biology major at the University of Windsor.
And we just wanted to thank you all so much for joining us for our 18th annual African Diaspora Youth Conference. For the first time in 18 years, technically 19, but unfortunately we had to cancel our real life conference last year. For the first time, we are having our conference online.
And this conference comprises of 40 different high schools across Windsor, Toronto, and Detroit, and we are so excited to have you all join us today. To begin with, we will start with the land acknowledgement.
And I'll begin the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, comprising of the Ojibwe, the Potawatomi, and the Odawa, commonly known as Windsor, Ontario, on which we are learning, working, and organizing today. The territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties. It's important to acknowledge the land because growing up as settlers and immigrants, we never heard the traditional names of the territory's Indigenous peoples, and their struggles are often spoken about in the past tense. We become complicit in the systematic oppression of Indigenous people and the denial of their rights if we historicize the struggles of the original inhabitants of this land and simply pretend that they no longer exist.
We take this opportunity and we also invite all those in this space to commit to the struggle against the systems of oppression that have dispossessed Indigenous people of their lands and denied their rights to self-determination, work that is essential to liberation for all people across Turtle Island and the world. We also recognize the deeply rooted and pervasive anti-Blackness within society, and particularly our educational institutions. Black people subjugated to transatlantic slavery are stolen people on stolen land. And we note the unique intersectionality of Black and Indigenous liberation. The struggle for Black, Indigenous, and other racialized lives is an intersectional liberation movement. No one is free until we are all free.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Rowan. The theme this year is The Power of You, which was our theme for last year as well, which highlights the resilience, determination, and courage within our young people today, showing that no matter what obstacles you may face, whether currently in high school or obstacles you may face in the future, we can assure you that you do have the power to overcome them. Alrighty, so, I'll let you go, Rowan.
So there is quite a history that comes with the African Diaspora Youth Conference, and the Associate Professor and Conference Chair, Dr. Andrew Allen, will now share a bit of that history with us.
Yes, thank you, Ruwan. Good morning. My name is Andrew Allen. Yes, I'm an Associate Professor in the Faculty of Education, and I'll be the Anti-Racism Pedagogies Teaching Leadership Chair for the university starting in July. As Rana said, I'm currently the chair for the Diaspora, and I've been involved for several years. I want to welcome you virtually to our campus at the University of Windsor and to the 2021 online annual International African Diaspora Youth Conference. Let me tell you the history of the conference and how this conference began. It was May 13, 2004, when Mr. Dave Watkins, history and social sciences teacher, Mr. John Solarski, guidance counselor, along with a few teachers, other teacher colleagues, accompanied 40 students from Western Collegiate to Toronto on a journey on the 401 all the way to Windsor, Ontario for an event that would become the inaugural African Diaspora Youth Conference. You see, a year before that, they had met Dr. Cecil Houston. He was the Dean of the Faculty of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences, and they quickly realized that they were like-minded souls. Because of what they ultimately achieved, they later came to believe that what they had done was some kind of divine intervention that drew these three people together to make the Diaspora Conference possible. Word of the initial success of the conference had spread in February 2005. The University of Windsor entered into a formal partnership with the Toronto District School Board to run an annual conference known as the African Diaspora Youth Conference. In 2004, there was a parallel conference for university students and professors, and the conference for high school students was supposed to join in along bringing high school students into the conversation. The first conference started out with a focus on Black youth and Black youth going to university. They all had seen firsthand as teachers and realized how young Black students were not going to university and they were capable of going to university and doing as well. The conference was a way to create a dialogue for students, to bring students together who identified as being part of the African diaspora. Their goals as conference organizers was to inspire young people through an intense learning experience that would encourage them to proceed to higher education. Let me tell you personally, we want you to go to university. We don't care where you go, really. However, we'd love for you to see you here in the University of Windsor. I'd love to see you sitting in my class. So the undertaking of the conference was officially endorsed by the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Colleges, University and Training at that time. And it was funding was put into place, and the conference has expanded year after year, consecutive year after year, and with the numbers exceeding 300 delegates annually. So 2 years ago, more than 350 delegates, just like you, were on campus for our African Diaspora Youth Conference. So last year was the first time, as Fardoza said, that we had to cancel the conference because of this pandemic. And this year we are back. And for the first time, the conference has gone virtual or online through the Zoom support from the TDSB. So the conference was a collective vision between Mr. Watkins, Mr. Solarski, and Dr. Houston. And Mr. Solarski, I've spoken to him, and he wanted you to know that we would be remiss without acknowledging the support and the guidance that we received the first year doing the conference from University President at the time, Dr. Alan Wilderman, the Toronto District School Board Director, Dr. Jerry Connolly, and guidance coordinator, Dr. Laura McPherson. So these two teachers and a dean created a conference just for you, even before some of you were born. So this is a wonderful opportunity for you to learn as much as you can from all the speakers today. So welcome again. Have a fruitful and productive day. And I now declare the African Diaspora Youth Conference 2021 open. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Back to you, Fardoza.
Yay! Thank you so much, Dr. Allen. I love the way you talk about the history of ADYC. It warms my heart. But now we will introduce the University of Windsor's president, Dr. Robert Gordon, to say a few words. Hi, Dr. Gordon.
Hey, well, thank you, Fardoza, and welcome everybody. We are thrilled that you're able to join us today, and it's certainly my pleasure to be here to welcome all of you to the 17th year of the African Diaspora Youth Conference. Unfortunately, as you've been made aware, we were not able to hold the conference last year as a result of the pandemic, but we are all thrilled that this year's event is being held virtually. We also look forward to a face-to-face conference again next year, but until then, we have a great lineup that has been scheduled for today. This is such an amazing turnout, expected with over 200 students from over 40 schools from the Greater Toronto Area, Detroit, and certainly Windsor. We are honored to host you here at the University of Windsor. As Dr. Allen said, as we begin today, I'd like to recognize the founders of this transformational conference. Dr. Cecil Houston, the former Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences here at the University of Windsor, Mr. John Solarski, a high school counselor, and Mr. Dave Watkins, a history teacher at Western Collegiate in Toronto, as well as the incredible work and leadership of my colleague, Dr. Andrew Allen, who has continued to build on the success of this idea since then. We are extremely grateful for all of these leaders. Thanks also to the dozens of volunteers who have made this year's event a reality. Thank you very much. ADYC is truly a promotion of African heritage, and Windsor is the ideal location to host this important conference. Our region certainly is rich in Black culture, including, for example, the Buxton National Historic Site and Museum, which is a tribute to the Elgin settlement, which was established way back in 1849 by Reverend William King. He was a former slave owner turned abolitionist who purchased 9,000 acres of Crown land in southwestern Ontario and created a real haven for fugitive slaves and free Blacks. For many fugitive slaves, the Buxton settlement was the final stop of the Underground Railroad from the United States. Close to Windsor is the Amherstburg Freedom Museum, previously known as the North American Historical Black Museum. It is commonly, it's a community-based nonprofit museum that tells the story of African Canadians' history and contributions. It was established in 1975 and presents artifacts of African Canadians, many of whose ancestors entered Canada as refugees from slavery in the United States. Historic Sandwich Town, which is just west of our campus here at the University of Windsor and is home to the Sandwich First Baptist Church, which was built by former enslaved Africans. Windsor is also home to the North Star Cultural Center, which is a resource center that supports intercultural cooperation and appreciation of cultural diversity, focusing on African Canadian heritage. So this is not just a Black history, this is Canadian history, which impacts all of us. ADYC has not only been helpful in providing everyone with an opportunity to further your culture, but to do so in a university setting, which may spark your interest in post-secondary education, as Dr. Allen described. In these areas of study, and certainly many, many more that we offer here at the institution. We're also really, really proud to support this conference and provide $1,000 scholarships to all students who attend and enroll at the University of Windsor. We hope to see you here soon. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gordon, for taking the time today to speak at our conference. Now we're going to hear from Jacqueline Spence, who is the System Superintendent of Equity, Anti-Oppression, Anti-Racism in the early years.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's such a pleasure for me to be here this morning to say how proud I am that we have so many students from the Toronto District School Board that are participating in this very important event. It also has a little bit of a personal significance for me. I grew up in Windsor. So I spent my formative years until I went to university, and I didn't go to the University of Windsor, mainly because I really wanted to go away. And so it's very special for me. I know Dave Watkins very well, and so proud of him and what he has been able to achieve, you know. And I think what I would like to say to all of the wonderful students that are here today is, if you look at the beginning of this conference, Dave Watkins had a little seed of an idea, and he stuck with it. And look where it is today, and look at the reach and how many students it has impacted. Very, very powerful. At the Toronto District School Board, we are in the midst of creating our wonderful Center of Excellence for Black student achievement. We're so excited about it. And this, of course, is a wonderful connection to exactly what it is we are hoping to create and sustain at the Toronto District School Board. So I want all of the students to soak up all this knowledge. This is Black excellence at its very, very best. Take it all in, take that scholarship. And as Dr. Allen said, they'd love for you to go to the University of Windsor, but just go to university because you can. So have a wonderful conference. Amazing to be here. And thank you to the organizers. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Thank you so much. Alrighty, so now we are super excited to introduce our very first keynote speaker of the day, Kareem Mason.
Kareem Mason is a native Detroiter who has spent more than 2 decades of his life with the Detroit Police Department. As a former homicide detective, Kareem possesses a perspective that has been informed by what happens when society fails its citizens. He constantly draws upon that knowledge to support and teach the next generation that will one day be left in charge of all of us. Recognizing the power that words and images possessed in 2015, Kareem attended the College for Creative Studies to further his knowledge of photography. In that time, he also began to write and perform spoken word.
And in 2016, Kareem co-founded Capturing Belief, a children's photography and creative writing program that embraces the power of visual storytelling. Kareem wanted to use photography as a vehicle for children of color to expose the world to their true selves without being filtered through the ignorance of others who sought to employ the camera as a mechanism that weaponized their identity. Kareem's multiple disciplinary arts and law enforcement background, coupled with his early childhood experiences, have allowed him to advocate for children of marginalized populations through mentoring, art, and public speaking. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Kareem Mason.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that wonderful and warm introduction. I want to thank the University of Windsor, and I also want to thank my family, the McCurdy clan, who helped settle Amherstburg, who are politicians, who are teachers in Windsor and across Canada. If it was not for them, I would not be here. As those who have come before you, it is our job to prepare the world to receive you. It is also our job to prepare you for the world. You know, I had a supervisor once that told me that I should smile more. I think that my smile made him and others more comfortable. He was white. Wow, I thought. Even my emotions were not my own. I was furious. He asked me to smile so that he would feel better. White skin is the globally recognized uniform of power, privilege, protection, and freedom. You have consistently sent spies to steal our unique gifts only to sell them back to us, passing them off as your own. Gifts that you convinced us were worthless. And in their place, you have placed the belief in the minds of others that the color of our skin is a credible threat to your very existence. The rest of us spend our entire lives chasing these alternate realities of acceptance. We chase freedom by donning the fatigues and traumas of a soldier, but are never truly accepted, no matter how much of ourselves we give up. And that afforded freedom is only provisional. We seek protection under the blue shadow of the badge, but the cost of living in darkness is quite high, and its protection only temporary. When it expires, we realize that society has not been made safer by the work we have done, and what we have done cannot be undone. Black lives will still be in danger when you attempt to return to the fold, and if you are Black, then you will be in danger too. We seek the privilege that we believe a tailored suit made of fine fabric can bring. Chocolate-flavored politicians free fall from grace with no parachute, after doing the biddings of their white masters, who have a bird's eye view live before the news. Plummeting pride rides their evil deeds to the pavement, splattering and bursting on freshly shined shoes. The masters observe the pain that remains from bloodstains created upon impact, from the comfort of their private jets before closing their eyes and pushing their seats back. They go to sleep comforted by the fact that their protection lies in the color of the skin on their backs. After the scars on our bodies are defined well enough to tell stories that allow the deaf to hear and the blind to see our generational wounds, the young are hobbled and told to walk or shake off nerve damage, broken bones, and concussions. We reach the football player's final hurdle to entering the professional arena, the last line that needs to be crossed before we will be paid, not for what we left and lost on the fields of the past, but an investment in our ability to captivate and amuse our new masters and ticket buyers of the future. Instead of being auctioned off on Wall Street, we are now observed in stadiums like the Big House. We must perform in this environment that would feel so familiar to our ancestors, our confirmation, our ability to move mountains and endure hardship is again critiqued and tested, just like our forefathers and mothers before us. In this theater, I am now a willing participant, but am I really? The greater my prowess on the field, I believe that I will be granted more citizenship, but this is not the case. To them, we are just the entertainment. And when we can no longer entertain, we cannot remain. That is why they became angry and profane, renaming us nigger for taking a knee. Protest is something they didn't pay to see. When they were cheering, they were not cheering for us. They were cheering for what we represent, a pastime where they can pass time, not a place to reflect upon the unfairness of race and white space. When it is all over, those who claim to love us will be gone. So too will our money, along with our physical and mental wellness. And then we discover again that our invitation to Master's Barbecue has been revoked. No longer reserved for us, but the next chosen few, the ones who will do what they tell them to. Perhaps the greatest possession that would allow us to capture and bind ourselves to freedom in perpetuity would be the attainment of knowledge in the failures of broken systems, and ending the hatred of difference through education and the true telling of our collective contributions to history and of our failings as a society. My wife once said to me, if in the beginning I were to see positive reflections of myself in history, her story, perhaps it is time that the world heard her story. Maybe then things would be different. Perhaps if I were taught more of my people's contributions to this place, I would believe that more was possible and not be so ready to accept what I have been conditioned to understand is normal. In turn, Black skin would no longer be believed out of place in the presence of important people. You do society no favors by keeping secret what you have learned in these spaces. Malcolm X once said, when you replace I with we, illness becomes wellness. Racism is a sickness that can only thrive if we remain silent. I want you to be more like Daniel Walker, a retired Black U.S. Air Force F-22 Raptor pilot whose uncle was a Tuskegee Airman. Major Walker refused to remain silent when told things like, if you don't assimilate, we will weed you out, or you are big and Black with a deep voice. Be less threatening. As athletes, you will be told that the field of play is no place for protest, told to just shut up and dribble. Police officers are conditioned to keep quiet and follow orders, and so they do. And nothing changes for us or for them when they return home to us from their 25-year tour of duty. Some CEOs of color learn to pretend so well that they have forgotten who they are. They learn to leave their culture behind, to rise, to crush everyone in their path, to assimilate, to get ahead, to hoard resources that allow others to succeed, to keep quiet, to reap the reward that lies at the end of that lonely, lonely journey. I want you to be more like 17-year-old Darnella Frazier, who filmed the public execution of one of the nation's most precious souls that helped to awaken the conscience of a continent. Although no one was able to save our beloved George or those that came before him, We know that the pile of souls that has been kissed by the sun will continue to climb toward a heaven that we've always been told awaits us, that our suffering here will be rewarded in the afterlife. Many still believe. Even though none of us have returned to tell others the wonders that exist in paradise. The world was forced to witness a truth that far too many already knew. Unarmed Black people are killed by police. On that day, fantasy became a fact that could no longer be ignored. I wasn't relieved when he was found guilty. I refused to speak his name. It is said that we each die twice. The first is the death of the physical self, and the second is the last time someone says your name. It took too many resources to prove what the world already knew. It doesn't take a team or a movement to convict us. The system was built to do that. Justice is not equal. Justice is not fair. From Ms. Fraser, I learned, when it seems like you can do nothing, something is everything. Do not get distracted by politicians or the media that seek to rally you into believing that law enforcement alone should be the scapegoat for all that is wrong with society. I assure you that it is not. Many of the systemic ills that are passed down come from deep-seated beliefs that one is better than the other, that white is better than Black, that he is better than she. It is in school that Billy learns that the world belongs to him, while Keena learns that the boundaries to freedom lie in a trait that she cannot change, but she will try her best to assimilate. All of Keena's friends, when they learn this reality, no matter where they are from, most of them will try to be more like Billy, discarding heritage and second languages along the way, checking boxes that may seem more likely to offer a passport to freedom. And after that education, they will go out into the world, and those teachings will be reinforced or disrupted. Then Billy, Keena, and all of their peers will take what they have learned and apply it to their chosen occupation. Some will be in finance, some will be in government and law enforcement, while others carry the racism and self-hatred that they were taught into other professions that affect everyone. On January 6th, they said, "This is not who we are." Let me be clear. This is exactly who we are. We have been taught to be this way. Before 2016, in the North, racism was hidden beneath a heavy veil of microaggressive behaviors that needed to be decoded to be understood. While in the South, the intolerance of Black and brown bodies being in white space was openly voiced, loud, proud, and often. Today, no one has a problem spewing the racism that they have been taught. Some wish this era would have never come to be. Just think, if the 2016 election never would have happened, how many of us would still be asleep at the wheel thinking that we had arrived, that we were finally free, because the nigger was still silent in our low performance evaluation or our children's expulsion for what Billy does that causes the teacher to laugh every day. Boys will be boys, they say, but not Black boys. That's not okay. You have all worked for so long and so hard to get here today. I wish that I could tell you that it was time to relax. I wish that I could tell you that we, your ancestors, have fixed the ills of humanity. I wish that I could tell you that the weight of the world was not going to be placed upon your shoulders, but it is. I wish that someone would have told me long ago that I would always have to use my mind, body, and soul to fight for our freedoms, that I was always going to have to fight to keep what I had attained. Then perhaps I would have maneuvered through life differently. I want you to be more like Muhammad Ali, a man who never stopped fighting for humanity. After many had thought that his mind was gone, not long before his death, he whispered to a dear friend of mine over dinner, "You still a nigger." I need you to cherish and understand that moment and learn from it, just as my friend had. Understand that no matter what you do, if you don't dismantle these systems that allow freedom for some based upon color, it won't matter if you are a champion or president of the United States. Some will always treat you with disdain based upon something which you have no control over. I do want you to fight, but fighting comes in many forms, and one of its most effective forms is the art of conversation and advocacy that inspires action, awakening allies. This work is hardest when done by few. At times it is lonely, and it will consume you if you let it. You will be tempted to turn away those that do not fight the way you fight, that do not possess the passion that you possess. Don't do it. Everyone will not, nor should they fight the same as you. And make no mistake, if you are to succeed, it will take the collective efforts of many. The more hands that do the lifting, the lighter the load to be carried. I want you to be more like the great photographer, historian, and social justice warrior, Rudy Roy, who once said, "There is a little girl 100 years from now waiting for me to finish the work." There are those that came before you that were unable to change what plagues us or didn't believe it was their job. Believe me, they see now. They may not possess your youth or your energy, but what they do possess are lifetimes of memories that can change this place with your help. I witnessed your energy and your passion around the continent and around the world these past months. Not even a worldwide pandemic that has killed millions could stop you from fighting for our freedoms. That's how I know it's possible, because you are the future. The past and the present must come together to secure that future. Then perhaps a century from now, we as a civilization will begin to explore the galaxy together, not as stowaways, but as a liberated people whose brilliant contributions would allow us all to survive the past mistakes and ignorance of old men. That little girl that we were waiting for so many years ago will be born free, and Black people will not be left behind to die on an exploited and desolate ball of dirt that everyone used to call home. The world watches what we do here. Globally, people of color are waiting for us to liberate ourselves so that the blueprint can be copied. I am here to tell you that there will always be a time to listen. There will always be a time to learn and a time to give back. But there will come a time to speak. There will come a time to act. There will come a time to help your sister, to help your brother, embrace each other, and free the world. In order for this to work, each child should know politics. Each child should know the her story of the place they call home. Each child should know finance. Each child should be literate. Each child should possess a visual literacy. Each child should know what an image means, what an image was created to make them feel, do, or accept. But no child should know the ultimate and indiscriminate violence of design poverty or the absence of influence. Your educational journey will not stop here. This is just a landmark, a stop along the way, like home or elementary school. But this place is a very important one. For many of you, this is the first place where you can choose to learn, if you pay for it, what it is to be Black, who you were meant to be, who you come from. Remember what I said in the beginning? They teach you that your gifts are worthless, so that you give them away, and then they sell them back to you. You get to learn what it is to be white. That education is free. But you have to pay to learn what it is to be Black, what it means to be you, or seek it out on your own. Why? It will always be your job to learn, to question, and to teach those around you. The conversation that allows people to advocate for themselves and the things they care about has gone on since the dawn of time. Each generation and every tribe must have a seat at that table. If we do not sit at that table, our condition and the things that we care about will not be considered or given. Participation is not a choice. It is a necessity. A representative must always be present. When talks break down, you see wars on poor people. I want you to remember that poor is on purpose. It is designed that way. You cannot be the richest, most resourceful, and most powerful nation and still possess some of the poorest pockets on the planet. If there is enough to go around, the logical conclusion, buried deep beneath all of the excuses, is that this is deliberately being done. If that is the case, it will take the work of many for it to be undone. Celebrate your successes and prepare yourselves for the work ahead that allows the future we are still dreaming about to become a reality. Perhaps then we will all have something to smile about. Today, I was supposed to speak for an entire hour, and a keynote speaker usually does that. They do not take questions. They arrive, they drop bombs, they make you smile, and they walk away. I want to know what you think. I want to know what you have to contribute. I want to know what questions appeared in your mind after I spoke. I want you to ask questions. And so I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful MCs so that they can field the questions that you have. This is perhaps one of the most important times of all of our lives, and I need you to participate.
Yeah, so first off, thank you so much, Kari. We encourage everyone to submit their questions in the chat right now. But in the meantime, me and Rawan actually have a couple of questions that we personally would like to ask you. So Rawan, you can ask your question first.
First off, I'd like to thank you so much for the beautiful spoken word and sharing your story with us. My first question is, how has working in the police and in the law enforcement, how has that shaped you personally and your views on the community and our community and your community?
Okay. That's a very, very good question. And I'm going to do my best to answer it. If I don't answer every part of that question, I need you to call me to task and perhaps repeat the portion that I didn't answer. I've been known for doing that, particularly after I've given a speech, because it's triggering. And so policing has informed the way that I move in society because it taught me my purpose. It allowed me to understand why things were the way they were in the world. It opened a door for me that explained that not everything is your fault. Being born poor is not your fault, right? You will always need an advocate. And if no one is advocating for you, or no one who looks like you is at the table, then nothing will change. Members of law enforcement, I am not the only member of law enforcement of color that feels the way I feel, that understands the things that I understand. But I am one of the only ones that is publicly voicing what I have learned. Many believe that if they remain quiet, they can keep their status. But if you remember what I said earlier, whatever the plight of Black people is, when you put that badge down, you will be received the same way. Your children will be received the same way. Everybody you love will be received the same way. So if you are not working to change that reality, you're a fool. You must participate in your own destiny. You can no longer rely upon others to change what affects you. You must participate. And you must teach everyone that comes after you to participate. Because as soon as they stop, as soon as the line of succession stops advocating for those that come after, everything reverts back. And the table only serves those who sit at it. If I didn't answer a portion of your question, please spit it back to me.
You answered it perfectly. Thank you so much. Before we get to the chat, for those that just has a question, and we will move on to the questions from the chat. And thanks for asking in the chat, everyone.
Yeah, we're getting so many questions. I'm feeling tempted to kind of push mine off, but mine is fairly quick. You mentioned mental wellness and Black mental wellness briefly in the beginning of your keynote address. And I just wanted to know what your personal advice would be to young people in this call today who, with this pandemic, we're on our phones, social media constantly. So we're faced with the harsh reality of the systems of oppression that Black people have been experiencing since the beginning of time. What's something that you can tell young people in this call to reassure them that although this may be a current reality, they have the capacity to overcome it?
Okay. I love that question. We are in a time where the convergence of technology, the free access to information, and the understanding that the world as you knew it before 2016 was false, have all come together to coalesce and they are focused through the deaths of Black bodies being displayed. If you are young, you have received a very rude awakening to what the world is. But if you've been paying attention to what happened after those deaths, and since those deaths that continue to occur, what happened is that you have a collective energy that cannot be ignored if you choose to display it. They will attempt to make laws to prevent you from protesting. They will attempt to make laws to prevent you from gathering. You cannot be ignored. Government is the people. And if the people don't want it, then it will not be. There is power in your vote. There is power in your thought. There is power in your speech. If you do not like this current situation, you can change it. You are the future. There is a person, and his name escapes me. He works with the youth in the United Nations, and he made a statement. And the statement was, if you speak about the youth as though they are part of the problem, you have no future. If you speak about the youth as though they are the solution to our problems, you have a future. You are the future. I need you to understand that. I was not prepared for what this world is. It should not be that an individual reaches the midway point in their life when they finally understand what their true purpose is, when they finally understand the work that needs to be done to protect everyone around them, when the veil is removed, right? Everyone on this call knows now, right? If they didn't know before now, some of the ways in which the world works. And if you always question what is, you will receive answers. If you don't like what is, you have the power to change it. That is within each and every one of you. Collectively, you are unstoppable.
Thank you. Thank you so, so, so much. Alrighty. So we're going to jump into these wonderful questions. The very first one from Hannah Joshi is, what inspired you to make poetry?
The truth is that for more than 2 decades, I've used words and imagery from the lives of people who've made mistakes in very bad situations to, in some cases, imprison them for the rest of their lives. I began to understand that words and images have been used as weapons against us since people began to pick them up. And if words and images can be used to imprison, to isolate a people, those tools can also be used in the reverse to liberate those who are affected. That's why I use poetry.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. One of our chaperones from Detroit, Adam Harris from Oakland, asks, what advice would you give to high school students from Metro Detroit and the US about encountering the police?
So this is a difficult topic that became even more difficult. If you are white, you have privilege. You are born free. You don't have to chase it. You can be pulled over by the police, wave a gun, pull off while waving the gun with the police officer being dragged on the vehicle, and that police officer will not shoot you. You will survive. So white parents don't have to have those conversations with their children. But we have to have conversations with our children about proper behaviors in church, in the grocery store, in school, and on traffic stops. And prior to George Floyd being executed, my advice to any child was to comply with everything the police say, even if you are faced with the most out of control police officer. Your best chance of surviving that encounter is compliance. And then I watched what happened to George. George was doing nothing, and George was still executed. And I paused. And then Rayshard Brooks was killed in Atlanta. He was asleep in his car. And I watched a traffic stop go on for what seemed like an eternity. If you're going to arrest someone, just do it. What were we waiting for? And then I watched him struggle and run away and be shot as he ran away. And someone asked me to analyze what happened in that stop. And I thought, I can't analyze it as a police officer because that's unfair. Because before I am anything else, I am a black man, and that is what society sees. They almost never see my badge or my credential that affords me more freedom. They just see a large black man. And so for the first time, I had in my mind, wow, compliance didn't work for George. And in my mind as a father, I thought, do I comply? Do I fight? Or do I flee? And I simply thought that those were the only choices, right? Because if you thought you were going to die, can't you, as a person, do something to save yourself? Well, we know if you're white, you can do anything to save yourself. But if you're a black person, can you do something to save yourself? Will society allow that? Will the media allow that? Will law enforcement allow that? And I didn't know the answer. until the next traffic stop that went awry. A Black and Latino lieutenant in the military was pulled over in the South. And instead of pulling over immediately, he pulled over in a well-lit area, a gas station. And the two police officers get out. They're both white. One is considerably older and overweight and clearly triggered. And the young white police officer is following the lead of this older, out-of-control police officer. And I watched this lieutenant be disrespected. I watched this lieutenant be sprayed with a chemical irritant. That lieutenant had a gun in the car. That lieutenant was in full uniform. That lieutenant also had a dog in the car. That lieutenant also had a cell phone in the car. And that cell phone was recording his every move, his every word. And the best thing that he did in that situation was nothing. He spoke politely, which amplified the ignorance of the officer. He would not move his hands. He would not undo his seatbelt. He just sat there. He made sure that we, the public, would see his hands. He made sure that his camera would see his hands. He was passively resistant. I'm not going to help you kill me. I'm not going to help you imprison me. And he survived. Somewhere in what I said is the answer to your question, but every situation will be different. But everybody on this call has the ability to change what is so that you and I and those who come after us no longer have to endure these abuses.
Thank you so much, Carrie, and thank you for being open and vulnerable with us. The next question is from Naomi, and her question is, have you ever experienced racism on the job?
Racism on the job is veiled. 2016 didn't change that, right? Before 2016, I didn't experience as much microaggression as I experienced after 2016. Do we have to go?
No.
Okay.
No,
And
I
so-
just accidentally clicked it, so sorry.
That's okay. And so one of the ways in which it is veiled within law enforcement is, for instance, you're on the job for 15 or 20 years and you make it to an elite task force. And these methods are practiced all throughout law enforcement, as I understand it, in Detroit. I can't speak for the rest of the nation. You make it to a task force because you've done your job very well. You put a lot of people behind bars. And your white colleagues go to lunch and nobody cares how long they're gone or when they come back. But as soon as your supervisors don't see you, and black supervisors do this too, everybody starts asking, where's the black officer? Where did they go? What are they doing? Nobody challenges a white officer when they go to 10 or 15 smoke breaks in a day. But if I go to the bathroom, somebody asks where I was. If I go to lunch, somebody's timing me. Somebody may have said I left early, to the point that I have to do an investigation on my card swipes to prove that I didn't leave early and that that person was trying to assassinate my character. When an officer has reached 25 years or so and they begin to slow down in their career, as everybody does as they age, for white officers, positions are created so that they can ride out their time and leave when they want. For black officers, those Black officers have work piled upon them, more work than they can ever complete. They're constantly monitored, they're constantly harassed, and they're pushed out the door. When you're a member of law enforcement who has a storied career and you get hired into a new agency, and that agency has said to you, you know, there is simply nobody more qualified than you guys. When you get hired in, you're not paid what was said you were going to be paid. You have to fight to be paid that. You have to fight to make full time. You have to fight to get a vehicle. You're constantly fighting for a job that you were told was yours. And so the question becomes, do they really want me here? Is somebody trying to send me a message? So the question is, you know, what does racism look like in law enforcement? That's what it looks like. For me, that's what it looks like. For others, it may be more blatant.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
Sure.
The next question is by Red Frusler. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. And the question is, do you feel as if education is the best tool we have as Black people to elevate ourselves? And how does that compare to other platforms like fame or athletic excellence?
Okay, so let's do this quickly. Fame, political prowess, education, money, how you are dressed, how you speak, none of that will erase what someone feels about you. If they have been taught their entire lives that you are less than, when you appear in front of them, you are still less than. Doesn't matter how educated you are or what you have, right? Because they are the ones who are uneducated. Education is certainly the key. However, the education that we seek for everyone to have is not possible in a system or in these systems that are born of white supremacy. These systems were created to ensure dominance of one culture, and it will not tolerate the rising of other cultures toward equality. So all of these systems need to be deconstructed, dismantled, and rebuilt from the beginning. They are all informed by white supremacy. We're trying to do something inside that system that it will not allow. It cannot allow it. It won't.
Kari, Charlize from United Way asks, do you think because of the pandemic, we are seeing oppression more in the Black community than before because we're now on social media and reading news more frequently?
So I think the root of that question is it happening more? I do not think that it is happening more. I think that it is happening on the same levels. It may be easier to oppress others through the advent of technology, but I think that it is being filmed more, right? We're creating a more visceral, visual record of how we choose to disenfranchise and oppress the people, right? That's the answer I got.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we have a question. We are getting so many questions. I'm so happy that you guys are super invested and taking the time to ask these questions. And Kari is an amazing speaker, so I'm really excited. Brianna asks, what advice do you have for a Black student going to a predominantly white high school or in a new neighborhood?
So, new neighborhoods. I'm going to take that to mean the suburbs. No matter where you live in this country, you know, Canada, the United States, there is a long-held belief that you don't belong, that when your family appears, their property, their property value is going to go down. You are not wanted. although it is not legal for government to aid in segregation, that's where it started. They had laws to ensure that. And when those laws went away, the beliefs stayed and they continued to be passed down. And so when I moved to the suburbs with my family, I got all these strange looks, or no one would look at me. No one would speak to me, even if I spoke. And then one day my son came home and he said, well, my friend, he only plays with me when his white friends are not around. And his friend was a white kid. So I would say to you, as a child that goes to a predominantly white school, learn what it is to be you. Assimilation is not going to fix the issue. Be who you are. Learn who you are, who you come from. And then perhaps you will know what it is you need to say. And you will not emerge from high school with a bunch of friends who aren't really your friends. Sort of like when I was on the Detroit Police Department. In the very beginning, everybody that I thought was my friend was a police officer. Towards the middle of my career, that began to change. And my friends became university professors, poets, musicians, politicians, artists. And as my core collective or circle of friends began to change, my views on the world began to change. It wasn't so siloed and polarized. And by the end, when I retired, no more police officers were calling my phone, right? Because we didn't have anything in common, right? I wasn't locking up Black people anymore. So there's no reason to call me, right? I do have friends who are police officers, but they don't exist just to imprison people. They know how the world works, right? If you don't know how the world works, it's very easy to get you to do whatever it is somebody else wants you to do. But once you awaken, it's difficult to do that if what you are doing injures your circumstance and the circumstances of those that love you.
Thank you so much, Carrie. We have time for one more question, and I'm sorry to everyone that didn't get their questions answered. We will leave Carrie's contacts in the chat. So the next question is, what advice would you give to students dealing with racist or biased educators minimizing African American or women's history?
Well, I love that because I want to hear more about her story. Her story is how we all come to be here. Without her, there is no us, right? And so what I would say is that you must advocate. If a class doesn't exist, you could rally as the student body, put together a petition, and tell the university this is a class that you want. And if the university still won't give you that class, you must seek the knowledge on your own, right? You are paying to learn what it is to be you and who you come from. The white education was free. It's like that first hit of crack. It's free. And then you just keep coming back, right? But what you really need, you have to pay for. The education of what it is to be you, you have to pay for. You don't have to pay for it. You can find it on your own, right? But if you are in control because you are the student body, right? If you are in control, ask for what you want. You'll get it.
Thank you so much. I know we said we were doing one more question, but I know Dr. Allen has a question that he wanted to ask. So Dr. Allen, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for your talk, for responding to the questions. I really appreciate that, brother. So the question I have, and I want to preface my question with the context of the issues that we are dealing with here in the high schools and at the university. So in my introduction, I mentioned that I'm the anti-racism pedagogist teaching leadership chair starting in July. And as So my job is to move the university agenda through anti-racism, particularly anti-Black racism. So as Black folk, we bring a diversity of perspectives, both locally and internationally. So we here in our schools in Windsor, Toronto, and at our university, we've been struggling with the power of words and how words can be injurious and hurtful. And I've taught many lessons for many years on injurious speech. I cannot watch the video of George Floyd being murdered. I've had it all the 9 minutes and 29 seconds described to me. I've seen still images. I've watched the trial and heard testimony of the different stages of suffocation. Once the video starts, I've got to switch it. I cannot bring myself to watch it. It's too painful for me. But the video is very important, only just for me. So as a way of protecting myself. So after George Floyd, and I agree with you, George Floyd was a pivotal moment. I stopped uttering what I'm going to call the N-word as a part of my teaching. Oprah, and I don't normally quote Oprah, but Oprah said it's the last word that our ancestors heard before they were lynched. The N-word is a citation of a history of genocide and violence of our people. So a number of us cringed when we heard the word, and it doesn't matter the context, we still cringe. And I recognize the context in which you use the word, and I felt you. How would you advise our high school students to make sense of the trauma and legacy when they're trying to negotiate that with their teachers and with other students and working towards, our goal is to working towards eliminating the word from our vocabulary. And again, I'm bringing this Canadian context because this is an international conference, and I know there are many answers and many ways of thinking in it, but I'm thinking about our high school students in both Windsor, Toronto, and Detroit, and dealing with a difficult legacy of the utterance of the words, and again, the sense of trauma that brings, and the struggles to negotiate that space with their teachers, with their peers, and I just wonder what kind of advice that you have.
Sure. With regard to the word, that word is not in my normal everyday conversation. I never apologize for using it, and I don't think that you're asking me to. What I do understand what you're asking. So the word will disappear from speech. The word will die when the pain of young poets stops coming to be. The word will disappear when racism disappears. The word will disappear when I no longer need it to get you to understand why what we are doing is so important. Some will choose to use it in their everyday vernacular, and they will say it is a term of endearment that's been repurposed. That is a coping mechanism. I would never take that away from anybody. That word will disappear from in-group, from out-group, from racists, from extremists, from white supremacists, from ill-meaning politicians. It will disappear when everybody on this call comes together with everybody else to change what we've known for so long is wrong. And when we refuse to pass down this burden to the next generation by just throwing our hands up, right? We cannot do that. That burden is passed down. And when you know what it is, when you understand that on your 89th year on this planet, when you look back and you understand that you could have done more, that you should have done more, when your child is in trouble and you can no longer help them because you do not possess the mental capacity or the strength to do so, to liberate them from that situation, right? All of those things disappear when we do the work that is necessary. But we're born into a world that does not let us know that this work is necessary unless we pay for an education that teaches us who we are, because we've been indoctrinated into a society that tells us our best chance of achieving freedom is to assimilate, right? I didn't go to college. So the education that you are getting ready to get, right? You're going to get it 20 years before I got it. but it should start on day one. It should start in year 5, not in year 20, not in year 19, not in year 40, 45, or 80. We understand collectively what our purpose is, to change what we see being paraded across televisions every day, right? There's a phrase for black on black crime. Well, more white people kill white people in America than black people kill black people. If it bleeds, it leads. And what bleeds is black. What can be more American than that? This is all a fallacy, and you can change it. Will you do it?
Yep. Thank you for your response. I'd love to engage you further, but I'm going to pass back to Fardosa. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that was a really, really great question, Dr. Allen. And Kari, you are an incredible human being. Thank you so much for being here, hearing you answer all of these questions, and seeing all of you students and chaperones and just attendees in general sending these amazing questions. I'm so sorry we couldn't get to all of them, but Rawan put Kari's Instagram handle in the chat, so if you wanted to go give Kari a follow, support him, we definitely would recommend it. But again, thank you so much for that wonderful keynote address.
Thank you all.
All right, everyone, it is now time for the workshop. So everyone should have gotten a second link to their designated breakout group. If you guys can click on that now and join it now, including all facilitators, and we will be back by 11:20.
Yes, so you guys will be off to your breakout rooms now. All of the students who received an email with this main webinar link, you also received a second link for the breakout room. So you all can leave now. If you are having a bit of technical difficulties, you can stay back and send us a message in the chat, or I also put Margaret's email on the screen if you wanted to contact her directly. But everyone, please enjoy your breakout groups, and we look forward to seeing you in an hour.
So if we can have you go to www.kahoot.it and put in this code 5359362, we can start. Awesome, just waiting for people to join.
These are some fun names. My personal favorite is Groovy Rhino. That one's sticking with me.
Oh, this is great, guys. Power Possum, I love that. Okay, as people join, I'm going to start with the first question. What anniversary will the Diaspora conference be celebrating this year? The 19th, the 20th, technically the 18th because we didn't have one last year, or the 17th? Lock your answers in, folks. Ah, 44% got it right, or 44 people got it right. Awesome. Okay. It is technically the 18th because we didn't have one last year. Next question. What was the name of the dean who founded Diaspora? Is it Cecil Houston, John Solarski, Dave Watkins, or are you not sure? Cecil Houston. Okay, most people thought Dave Watkins. All right, let's go. Next question. And Legend Urchin is leading. How many schools are attending this year's conference? 65, 27, 40, or only 4? Time's almost up. Get your answers in. 40. 40 is the correct answer. Most people got it. Awesome. And Legend Urchin is still in the lead. Next question, how many keynote speakers do we have this year? Everybody should get this right. Is it 1, 2, 3, or are there 4 keynote speakers? The correct answer is 2, and most people did not get this right.
It'd be an eventful day if we had 4 keynotes.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. And nobody has taken Legend Urchin's spot. All right, 5th question. Which department can the ADYC scholarship be applied? To which department can this scholarship be applied? Annie, good job. Good job. All right. I hope you win. You will be able to receive a scholarship. Do you know how much it will be? We can get a scholarship, $1,000, $500, or not sure. If you come, you will get a scholarship. How much money will you get? It'll be $1,000, which is fantastic. I hope you guys take advantage of that. And Radiant Ferret, I had a ferret, it was not a pet. Radiant Ferret is in the lead now. It was savage. How many times can you receive a scholarship? Every time you attend the conference? Only once in the same year you attend the conference? Every semester or every fall? How many times can you receive the scholarship? Only once in the same year that you attend the scholarship. Very good. Very good, folks. Proud Wildcat. Glad you bumped that ferret out. Okay. Awesome. So the winner of this Kahoot was Proud Wildcat. Thank you guys all for participating. I hope you're having a great time during, or no, we have one more question. Sorry, one more question.
Almost there.
We're almost there. True or false? Once you come to the University of Windsor, you can volunteer for ADYC. True or false? It's really fun to volunteer too. So what's the answer, guys? Come on. 92 people said true, and that is correct. You can absolutely volunteer with this lovely group of people to put this fabulous conference on. And Decisive Ant is in 3rd place, Helpful Pony in 2nd place, and who is in 1st? Proud Wildcat.
Yay! Congratulations, Proud Wildcat. If you're out there, please send into the chat. We want to congratulate you through the chat too. Alrighty.
Lovely.
I'll start sharing my screen again. Awesome. Alrighty, now to introduce our afternoon keynote. Rowan, take it away.
Okay, so this afternoon's keynote speaker is Jeff A.D. Martin. He is a soul-stirring, thought-provoking, highly requested professional speaker who has been using his platform to inspire people from around the world. Because of his passion for giving back and serving others, Jeff often stands in his own vulnerability and shares personal stories of perseverance and resilience. As a result of his reliability and willingness to be open, people from around the world have experienced life-changing breakthroughs and discovered untapped greatness, all because of the great Jeff.
Jeff is also an award-winning professional speaker. In 2019, he came in 3rd in a well-known international speaking competition, 1 round shy from competing in the Global Champion. With his career and life experiences, coupled with his benevolence and passion to inspire, Jeff A.D. Martin shares his gift of purpose and efforts to help others find their true potential. Jeff, I'm gonna hand the mic over to you. You're good to go.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And if you could do me a favor as well, I'd love to share my screen.
Absolutely.
Perfect. And I'll get that up and running here. All right. All right. I want to say thank you so much for allowing me to be speaking to you today. Of course, we would have loved to be together in person, but we know we're still battling this COVID thing. I was scheduled to come out there last year and be a part of this, but of course, again, as you know, last year was canceled, but here we are. We adapt and we overcome. And I want to greet you today as kings and queens. I want to greet you as royalty. I want to greet you as individuals who has greatness running through your veins. I want to greet you as somebody who has been able to do so much with sometimes so little. You were created to be great. You're not here by accident. You're here for a reason and for a purpose. And sometimes I know when we go through life, we deal with difficulties, we deal with problems. We see the way that sometimes we are treated in the media and in public and by different people. But we have to know that despite all of that, we were created to be great. Let me ask you a question. And I love to ask this question with all the audiences I speak to, even, Black folks like myself. I want to ask you this. Have you ever even wondered, why do we have a Black History Month? In February, North America, we celebrate Black History Month, both in the US and Canada. But you ever ask yourself, why do we even have a Black History Month? And I'm going to answer that question. But before I do, I have a series of questions I'm going to ask before I get to answering this one. Did you know that slavery existed here in Canada? See, it's pretty much known that slavery existed in the United States, but some people don't know that it existed right here on this land, here in Canada. Did you know that? Did you know that the very first person that was brought here that was enslaved was just a 6-year-old boy? His name was Olivier Lejeune. Some of you have brothers or sisters at home that are in and around 6 years old. Imagine their life not being their own. Did you know that the very first Black person that was in Canada, that actually arrived in Canada, wasn't enslaved at all? His name was Matthew DaCosta. In fact, he spoke 4 or 5 different languages. Very intelligent man. In fact, he came here with the Europeans so he can translate with the indigenous people who were already here. I don't know how he was able to speak a language with people that he had never met, but that's how intelligent he was. Did you know that? Did you know that segregated schools existed in Canada? In fact, the last one to close was about 37 years ago. Some of you have parents that are in and around 37 years old. So it really isn't that long ago. Did you know that? Did you know that there was a law in Canada that said that Black people were not allowed to have fun? Yeah, I know it sounds kind of strange. But if people were found playing cards, laughing, drinking, just hanging out, oftentimes they'd be thrown in jail. People have lost their lives because they were having fun. Again, did you know that? Did you know that when slavery was finally abolished here on this land in Canada, rather than the government saying to those of you who were enslaved, we're so sorry for what has taken place, here we're going to give you some money for what has taken place, what's happened to you. Rather than the government of the day doing that, the government looked to the people who were doing the enslaving and so said, we're so sorry that the laws have changed. Here's a bunch of money for your problems. Did you know that? Now, let me ask you this. Out of everything that I just spoke about, how much of this have you learned in your school system? Probably not a whole lot. In fact, let me ask you this. How much of this have you learned even in conversations on social media, just in regular conversations in society? Again, probably not a whole lot. So when I go back to the first question, why do we have a Black History Month? We have a Black History Month because oftentimes the people who have helped to build this country into what it is today, the people who have helped to build the U.S. into what it is today, oftentimes their names are not written in our history books. Their names are not spoken about in conversations. It's almost like they never existed. And so it's important for us to celebrate the people who have helped to build this country into what it is today. Because when we can recognize that greatness has come before us, then we recognize that we can be great as well. When we recognize that our ancestors have resiliency running through their bloodstream, then you start to realize that it's running in you as well. And so it's so important for us to remember the great people who have done amazing things. Do your own research, because unfortunately, our school systems, as much as they give us, some really great skills and tactics and things to learn, sometimes they don't give us the reflection of who we all are. And so we got to go out there and find that for ourselves. And when you find it, you share it because you want your brother and sister to stand up just as tall as you. Let me ask you this, though. We know that we've had people in history who have gone through some real difficulties in life, but the truth is that even though they've gone through these difficulties, they've decided that they were going to persevere anyway. But let me ask you this. How different would our world be if some of the biggest dream chasers, the people who've done amazing things, what if they decided that they were going to give up? Because sometimes it feels like I can't do this anymore. I'm going to give up. Like this fight is too difficult. But what if some of the greats who have come before us, what if they gave up? Do you know that Martin Luther King, at one point in his life, he was getting 40 death threats a day? I really want you to imagine that, 40 death threats a day. Every time he picked up his phone, or he'd be out doing his civil duties and his wife would pick up his phone. Coretta would pick up the phone, or the children would pick up the phone. Someone on the other line would say, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to blow up your house. I'm going to kidnap your children. Can you imagine hearing this 40 times a day? I wouldn't blame him if he wanted to give up. But he saw something bigger. He saw something greater. He saw that it wasn't just about him, but it was about the bigger picture, the people who were going to come after him that he would never get to see and meet, the people like you and me. And because he was able to persevere, he has become who we all celebrate to this day. But how different would this world be if Martin Luther King decided that he was going to give up? You know, one of the things that I love to speak about is, we oftentimes speak about the great people who have come before us, like the Martin Luther Kings, but we also have to recognize that there are great people standing among us today. People like Winnie Harlow. See, Winnie Harlow grew up in the Toronto area, and you could tell by her skin that she had a condition called vitiligo. You can probably imagine the things that were said about her when she was growing up, the names that she was called. In fact, there was times in her life that she just wanted to end it all because she couldn't live with the skin condition that she had. But somebody saw her one day and they approached her and they said, you know what? We can actually see the beauty in you, both inside and out. And I think you should maybe consider becoming a model. She thought they were absolutely crazy, but she decided that she was going to go for it after all. And because she decided that she was going to push on, even though she had people telling her, you are crazy, you can't be doing this. Look at the way you look at the way, there's no way you can become the definition of beauty that the world gives. She decided that she was going to be resilient and step through it. And because she has, she's become one of the biggest supermodels this world has seen today. She's been on runways in France and Japan, all over the world. She has been on TV with people like Tyra Banks and other supermodels, and she continues to inspire people today because she decided that she wasn't going to give up. How different would the world be if someone like Winnie decided that she couldn't take all the names that she was being called, that she couldn't take all the ridicule and the discrimination, and she was going to walk away? How different would our world be if she decided that she was going to quit? I think by now my Canadian friends, you've probably seen this $10 bill. And my friends who are chiming in from the D, if you've come over, you might see this as well. This is our newest $10 bill. The woman on it, she went through a very similar circumstance like Rosa Parks did, but before Rosa Parks. See, her name is Viola Desmond. And in 1946, Viola decided that she was going to see a movie in a movie theater in New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, which of course is here in Canada. She bought a ticket and she went inside and she sat very close to the screen. An employee came over and said, "Ma'am, you can't sit here." She said, "Why?" He said, "People who look like you, people who look like me, have to sit in the balcony." She didn't think that was fair. So she went out and tried to buy a ticket for where she was sitting, but they wouldn't sell it to her. So she went back and she put her butt right back in that same seat. The employee ended up calling the police. The police showed up and said, "Ma'am, you were told that people who look like you can't sit down here." She didn't think it was fair. So the police picked her up. She was about 5'5", just a little over 100 pounds. And the big police officers dragged her through the theater. They dragged her through the lobby. They threw her in the back of the police car and she spent one night in jail. And the next day she found that she was criminally charged with an offense. You see, the ticket that she had for the balcony had a tax of 2 cents. And where she was sitting, it had a tax of 3 cents. So they charged her with trying to defraud the Canadian government of 1 cent. Now, she knew what was taking place wasn't right, and she decided that she was going to fight it. Her husband loved her to death, said, "Dear, I love you, but I don't think this is right. I think we should just do away with this thing. Let's pay the fine and get rid of it." All her friends and family were like, "We love you, but this is not the place to fight. This is not the time to fight." But she thought it wasn't right. And so she decided not to give up and to persevere. And because she decided to persevere, the media at that time started to pay attention. Other provinces started to pay attention. The Canadian government started to pay attention. Unfortunately, she didn't live long enough to actually see her name get cleared. But the great thing is that the Canadian government, the modern Canadian government, went back to her family and apologized. They cleared her name so she no longer has a criminal record. And as you can see here, she is on our $10 bill. So this is what I would love for all of us to do. We know, again, as Canadian folks, we know when you have that dollar coin, what do we call it? A loonie, right? We have that $2 coin, we call it a toonie. I would love the next time you have a $10 bill, you don't call it a $10 bill, we call it a viola. Because it's a reminder of how resilient she was. It's a reminder that if she didn't fight, perhaps the rules would not be changed the way they are today. Because she did fight, because she did persevere. People like me and people like all of us can sit in that movie theater or any other movie theater that we choose to sit in because she decided not to give up. How different would the world be if Viola decided that she was going to quit? You know, one of the things that we really need to understand, again, we know how difficult the world can be. We know how tough it is. We've seen what happened in 2020 and the protests all around the world. We know that there's been times that Black people have been treated so unfairly. People of color, Asian people, a lot of different people have been treated so unfairly. But we have to recognize that we always get a chance to choose. We can choose the path that we walk down. We're always going to have obstacles. We're always going to have things and people who are going to try to step in our way. Haters and doubters are always going to be there. But we get a chance to choose. Do I choose to be that CEO? Or do I choose to be in prison? And sometimes we get handed things that we don't ask for. You know, a couple weeks ago, I had to rent a U-Haul truck. And when you get a U-Haul truck, sometimes in the back of the truck, there's this big bag. And in this big bag is a bunch of moving tools that you can use, like blankets to wrap furniture and plastic to kind of keep things together. And this bag is usually kept shut with a plastic tag. And if you break the plastic tag, you can take anything you want out of the bag, but it's going to cost you $50 to use this bag. When I rented my U-Haul truck, I had to move some boxes around, and I was inspecting the truck, making sure that everything was okay. And I noticed the bag was in the back of the truck, but it was empty. I was in a rush, so I didn't get a chance to tell the people who worked at U-Haul that it was empty. So I went, I moved my boxes, I did what I had to do. I returned the truck. When I returned it, they said, "Mr. Martin, is everything okay?" I said, "Yeah, everything was fabulous. Thank you very much." About 3 or 4 days later, I get an extra charge on my credit card for $50. I called up U-Haul. I'm like, "What is this?" They're like, "Well, sir, you used the stuff that were in the bag." I said, in fact, I didn't touch the stuff that were in the bag. It was like that when I got there. The bag was empty. They said, "Mr. Martin, I hear what you're saying, but all we know is that when you returned the truck, the bag was empty. So that means the onus is on you." So I got passed down a bill that didn't belong to me. I use that analogy because sometimes in life, we get passed down bills that don't belong to us. We get given things from our parents and our grandparents that we don't ask for. Listen, if it's mom's recipe for her apple pie or mom's cookies, then it's all good. You know what I'm saying? I'll take that any day. But sometimes it's a broken mindset. Sometimes we get passed down a poverty mindset. Sometimes it's alcoholism and drug abuse. Sometimes it's physical abuse that's happening in your home and that gets passed down to you. But you have to understand that just because something might get passed down to you, it doesn't mean that you have to accept it. Some of you are graduating this year. You might be the first in your family to do so. You are considering going to the University of Windsor next year. Some of you, you'll be the first in your family to go to post-secondary education. You are breaking cycles. You refuse to take on the bill that's being passed down to you. And it's important that we understand that because at the end of the day, nobody is coming to save you. See, no one's going to come along and hand you $1 million. No one's going to come along and give you that job or that big car that you want. We can't sit and wait for the next Martin Luther King to rise so he can help us with this fight. It is on us. We have to understand that we have the ability to make change. Nobody's coming along to save us. No one's going to come along to give us that thing that we want. If you want it bad enough, then you have to fight for it enough. If you want to see change in this world, you want to see change in your family, you want to see change within our community, then it takes you. It takes me. It takes all of us to jump in and get it done. Why? Because nobody is coming to save us. You know, I get a chance to do a lot of talks like this, especially now virtually because of COVID. And over the last 2 months, I've been doing quite a few talks, like once a week, with guys who are incarcerated in the Toronto East Detention Center in Toronto. And I'm so blessed for the opportunity because as I sit here in my house speaking through my camera, I always see these guys and they're dressed in their orange jumpsuits and they're made to look like hardened criminals. But when you start to have the conversations with these guys, you recognize that they're just broken boys. They look like men, but they're broken boys. You know, the other day I started to ask them a question every time I spoke to them. And I said to them, when was the last time you heard the words, "I love you"? And there's a certain group that I had asked, they kind of sat there quietly and nobody answered for about 15 or 20 seconds. And then one guy said, "Oh yeah, it's about 10 months ago that I heard those words." I said, 10 months ago that you heard someone say that they love you? He said, "Yeah, it's been about that long." I said, "Let me ask you this. When was the last time you said 'I love you' to yourself?" Again, they were quiet. And then the same guy was able to pipe up and he said, "I think it's never, to be honest with you." And I said, "Never, wow." You know, the sad thing is that these guys are sitting in this prison, but it's just a reflection sometimes of our community, that there's so much hate that's going on. Understand, because of the color of your skin, some of us are hated. Because of the neighborhood you grow up in, we're hated. Because you live on one side of the street and on the opposite side is a rival gang and they don't even know you. You're hated. You are judged by the color of your skin and not the content of your character. And so when I was speaking to those guys, at that time I stopped and I'm going to say something to you, the exact thing I said to them. I told them that I love them. And I want to tell you that I love you. And you're thinking, Jeff, how do you don't even know me, you've never met me, like how do you love me? Because we are so quick to spew hate. We need to learn to be quicker to spew love. So I do love you. I love you for the person that you're about to become. I love you for the change that you're about to make in this world. I love you because you're going to do something impactful with your life. That's why I love you. And the sad things, because there's so much hate that's going on in this world, oftentimes it's internalized and we hate ourselves. Malcolm X said, "Who taught you to hate the color of your skin? Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate the bottom of your head, the top of your head, down to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate?" It's important that we learn to turn our emotions into love, especially when we're seeing our own people, because we see sometimes the way we are treated. And rather than seeing someone as an enemy, we need to see them as a brother or a sister. And I think the way we do that, the way we get there, is starting to love who we are. Understanding that we come from people who are resilient. And I believe if we can use positive words of affirmation, I am, and something positive after that, we start to change the makeup of who we are. I can't tell you how many times I've been to schools, I've been to organizations, and I'm setting up my laptop, getting ready to give a presentation. And in the background, I hear the conversations and I hear students just like you. And you're like, oh man, I bombed that test. I'm such an idiot. Oh man, I messed up on that thing. I'm such a klutz. Oh man, I'm not smart at all. I can't believe I did that. Does it sound familiar to you? I know it's familiar to me because these are things I used to say to myself. And when we start to speak, we're listening. And when we speak, we're teaching other people how to treat us. So if you think you're an idiot, you're telling everybody around you to treat you that way as well. It's important that we learn to speak differently about ourselves, to speak differently about our brothers and about our sisters. And we start by, again, looking at ourselves and saying positive words of affirmation. I am amazing. I am strong. I am a king. I am a queen. I am honest. I am patient. I am whatever it is that you want to say for yourself, whether it be something you see here or something you create for yourself. See, I have 3 kings at home, 11, 8 years old, and 2 years old. And every single night before they go to bed, I have them recite, I am smart, I am handsome, I am brave, I am strong, I am brilliant, I am amazing. And then they go on to say, if I fall down, I get up. If I fail, I try again. I can do all things I put my mind to. And it's important that we build ourselves up because, again, we live in a world that can be quite negative. Sometimes our friends are negative. Sometimes our own family can be negative. And when we can build ourselves up, we start to change the makeup of who we are. If you are somebody who's shy, every single day you say, I am bold, I am courageous. And you'll see the change within your body as you start to change the way you speak about yourself. It is so important that we really understand that the way we speak to ourselves, we start to use that to show love to other people. And then we show people how to love us. But it starts by loving who you are, loving the skin that you're in, loving the kinks in your hair, loving the shape of your body, loving the ancestry that you've come from, loving the brother and sister who look like you, loving who you are and what you represent. As we're speaking about self-love and worth and value, I want to ask you this question. When did you know that you were worth it? When did you realize that you were enough? And I know as you're listening to me, some of you don't know your value. Some of you don't recognize how bold and beautiful and strong and amazing and handsome you are. You know, some time ago, I had gone to a school and I was presenting, and at the end of the presentation, a bunch of students had questions, and there was a young woman that was in the back of the class. She was in a wheelchair. And I could tell by, her body, I could tell that she had something that was going on, some type of illness. And she put her hand up, and I said, yeah, how can I help you? Her name was Amanda. And she said, Jeff, I just want to ask you, when did you know that you were worth it? I thought, wow, that's a powerful question. And I was going to answer, but I could tell she had something she wanted to say. So I turned it back on her. I said, let me think about that. But Amanda, when did you know that you were worth it? Amanda said, when I was born, my parents were told that I wasn't going to live past 5 years old. But I'm a teenager now. She said, I've gone through so many surgeries in my life. The last time I came out of a surgery, I remember opening my eyes and I saw that I was surrounded by family and all I could do was smile. She said the doctor was in the room and the doctor came over and the doctor had a worried look on her face and Amanda said, Doc, what's wrong? And the doctor said, Amanda, you died twice on the operating table. And I just got to tell you, you absolutely inspire me. Every time you come to my doctor's office, every time you come out of an operation, you're always smiling. You find a reason to smile. I know you're in pain. I know you have this illness, but you always find a reason to smile. And I got to tell you, Amanda, you are my favorite patient. So Amanda looked at me and she said, Jeff, I'm her favorite patient. She said, I don't know how long I'm going to live. In fact, I don't know if I'll be here long enough to even experience love. But it was at that moment when this doctor who has made so much amazing changes and operations on people, when she said I was her favorite patient, I knew at that point that I was worth it. And that was so powerful for me. I went home that night and I could hear Amanda's voice in my head saying, I am worth it. I am worth it. I am worth it. The very next week, I go to another school and I give another presentation. And as I'm leaving, I'm packing up my stuff and I'm walking out, and I can see there's a commotion down the hallway. A fight broke out. I'm thinking, how does a fight break out after my amazing motivational presentation? The principal runs over, she grabs one of the students and she throws him in her office. So I'm like, what's going on? She said, that's Andre. Andre's fighting 4 or 5 times a week. I said, what's going on with Andre? She said, Andre was abandoned as a child. He doesn't know who his parents are. And in fact, he lives in a foster home now, but they don't give him the love that he truly desires and deserves. And so I took it on myself. I went in that room and I closed the door behind me. And Andre was on the other side. He was absolutely fuming. And he was about to say something. And I put my hand up and said, Andre, I need you to listen to me. Andre, I need you to know that you are enough. He said, what? I said, Andre, I heard a little bit about your story, and I'm so sorry that this is what you have to go through, but you have to understand that you are enough. You are bold enough. You are brave enough. You are smart enough. You have to understand that you are enough. Everything you need is already inside of you. And at that moment, Andre started running towards me. And I thought for a second I was going to have to fight a kid. You know what I'm saying? But Andre got to me. And he opened up his arms and he jumped into my chest and he cried and he cried. And I had Andre repeat, I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. I went home that night and I still had Amanda's voice in my head saying, I am worth it. I am worth it. I had Andre's voice saying, I am enough. I am worth it. I am enough. I am worth it. I am enough. I said, I got to get something done about this. So I went out and I got this silicone bracelet made. And on one side, if you can see, it says, I am worth it. And on the other side, it says, I am enough. And I got 3 of them made. And when they got delivered, I went all the way to Amanda's school and I told her all about Andre. And I went all the way to Andre's school and I told him all about Amanda. And I said, we are the only 3 that have this made in the entire world. But my friends, I got to tell you something. Every time I get a chance to stand up and speak to another group of students, or speak to some people in the corporate world, or speak to kings and queens like yourself when I'm doing work within our community, there's always a brave person that stands up and says, I don't know my worth. I don't know my value. I don't see the reason for me to even keep living. I usually take my bracelet off and I give it over to them. And I know we are virtual. So that is impossible right now for me to take this off and give it to someone who feels that they don't see their value, they don't see their worth. But if that's who I'm speaking to right now, if you don't know your value, you don't know your worth, I need you to hear me right now. See, I know we're probably talking to hundreds, if not thousands of students, but I'm not talking to thousands of students. At this point in time, I'm speaking directly to you. Do you know that of the 7.6 billion people that are living on the earth right now, actually, let's go back even further. Of the 108 billion people to have ever lived on this earth, I'm talking about from the very first human being, from Adam and Eve, or whatever it is you believe, to the baby that's being born as you and I speak right now. You have to know that there's never been another you. There's never been a you before you. And the day you leave this world, there will never be another you after you. That means that your life matters. It means that your thoughts matter. Your dreams matter. The beautiful color of your skin, it matters. The kink in your hair, it matters. Do you know the odds of what it took for you to be here? You are 1 in 400 trillion. 1 in 400 trillion. Do you know that when your parents got together, and it's going to make some of you feel real weird because you don't want to talk about your mom and dad getting together, but the odds of the woman, that the specific egg that she released at that time, and the man, that specific sperm, men give out billions of sperm, and that one specific sperm met with that one specific egg, and it connected and made you. If it was a different egg, it would not be you. If it was a different sperm, it would not be you. When your mom and dad finally met, if your mom took a left in her car and not a right, you would not be here. If your dad was running late and never met your mom, you would not be here. But you're here for a reason. Because there's purpose for your life. We live in a world that oftentimes, being a Black man, they make me feel small. They make me feel that my life doesn't matter. They make you feel inadequate. But you have to know that you were here for a reason and for a purpose. There's a reason why you weren't aborted. Because there's a purpose for your life. There's a reason why you didn't die as a stillborn. There's a purpose for your life. And when you can start to understand the value of who you are, your worth, then you understand that you can make so much change in this world, despite where you come from, despite the circumstances you've been through. You are able to make so much change in this world by being who you are, by being authentically you, by being unapologetic about who you're intended to be. Real quick, before I go into the last part of my speech, I want to share this. There's a great organization I've been working with out of Ontario. My friends in the D, I'm sorry this doesn't apply to you, but my friends in Ontario, if you have a family member who happens to be in prison, or you know someone who has a family member who's in prison, this information here, this organization gives free services to people who have family members who are in prison. So if this is something that can work for you and your family, again, we're here to help as resources. Take a screenshot of that. I'd love that. Secondly, every Sunday I run a youth mentorship program on Zoom. We get together for an hour and we speak about, just young Black kings and queens, and we speak about goal setting. We speak about becoming financially well off. We speak about different things to prepare our lives as we go forward. So if you're interested, hit me up in the email or hit me up on Instagram at Jeff80Martin. Hit me in the DMs. Again, you can take a screenshot of that as well if you like. Back to your regular scheduled program. So listen, again, in life, we know that life hasn't been fair a lot of times. And when you see things that are happening in this world, and again, oftentimes you see that it's men, it's women, it's people of color, it's people who are just continuing to go through difficulties. Again, you saw the protests that took place last year. You saw that the world was finally able to stand up and say what's happening is not right. But we know that this has been happening way before those protests. People have been calling this out for years and people haven't been listening. We know that lots of us are living through difficulties and problems. But I want to tell you that you are able to persevere. At the end of the day, all of us still have the ability to choose. We can choose our level of greatness. We can choose how far we go. Again, there's going to be obstacles, and sometimes the obstacles in my way are different than someone else. But we still get to choose the direction that we go in life. You see, many years ago, I grew up in a really tough neighborhood. And in this tough neighborhood, because it was a tough neighborhood, there was a lot of drugs, a lot of guns, a lot of violence. And oftentimes when we would see the police, it always felt like they were harassing us. It always felt like I was being picked on. And all my friends were like, yo, I can't stand the police. I hate him. But I remember thinking to myself, imagine if somebody was actually able to use that type of power, but for good. They're actually able to use it to enhance the community instead of pulling us down. And that's something that stayed with me for a long time. And I finally grew up. I got older. I started to pursue a career, and I pushed and I shoved and I fought, but I was finally able to make it happen. I was able to finally become that police officer that I said I would become. But funny enough, I would say that that was the best year of my life. But just 15 days later, something went down that made that year the absolute worst year of my life. You see, 15 days after graduating police college, I remember it was a Monday morning and I woke up and I looked at my cell phone. I was about to get ready for work and I saw that I had 25 missed phone calls that came in throughout the night. I knew something was wrong. I ended up going through my phone. I saw that it was all family. So I ended up calling back one of my cousins. And when she answered the phone, she was crying and crying. And I said, "Cuz, what's going on?" But the more she tried to explain is the more she cried. I said, "Cuz, please, you got to tell me what's going on. You're scaring me." And she tried to cut through it and tell me what was going on, but she wasn't able to. And then finally, she was finally able to get through it. And she said, "Omar is dead. He was killed last night." Omar was my cousin. In fact, he was like a little brother to me. You know, because I was able to teach Omar how to play basketball. I taught Omar about music. You see, Q1, that was his DJ name. I even taught him how to speak to the young ladies. But on August 1st, 2005, Omar went out to celebrate his 27th birthday at the Phoenix nightclub, downtown Toronto. And while he was there, at some point in time, he went outside. And while he was outside, a car pulled up, and someone from the back seat pulled the window down, pulled out a gun, pulled the trigger, and shot Omar at point blank range. Omar died on the spot. I got to tell you, the pain that I felt was like nothing else. To see the trouble and pain in the eyes of my family and know that I couldn't take that pain away, it is something that absolutely killed me, and it brewed something within me, something that even to this day, when I think about it, it absolutely scares me. It was a feeling of revenge. I wanted to go out there and to handle my business. See, it was a struggle for me because a part of me decided that I wanted to protect and serve. But the other side of me wanted to go out there and to find the guys who did this and have their families feel the exact same way that we were feeling. It was a struggle that I went through for a long time. But I had learned something. See, in times when we are struggling in life, in times that we are going through some real difficult circumstances, no matter how difficult it might be, we always have the ability to choose. See, at that moment, I was back and forth. I was thinking, do I go and do that thing I shouldn't be doing and end up in jail just being another statistic? Or do I use the same energy and turn it around and make a change that needs to be made within our community? And because I did, I chose the second, I'm standing in front of you today. Because I chose to stand in the greatness that I know I was created to stand in. Although it was tough, although it was difficult, although I still miss my cousin to this day. I've been able to make some changes in this world because I've decided to stand in my greatness. There are people who are trying to hold me back, absolutely. There's always going to be haters and doubters. But when you were created for something, there's no one in this world that can stop you. The only person that can stop you is you. And so I've been blessed with so many opportunities. I had this young man one day when I was speaking at a place. At the end, the young man came to me and he started to talk to me and told me how he was sexually assaulted by his stepfather. And he said, "I'll be honest, Jeff, my plan was to leave here and to take my own life. But because I've listened to the words that you've said, it has absolutely changed my way of thinking. It doesn't make me special. It doesn't make me unique. It doesn't mean that I don't face problems. It doesn't mean I don't face racism and discrimination. But what it means is that I choose to stand in my greatness. All of us have a greatness that we can stand in. And again, we're always going to have problems. It's always going to feel like the world is against us. But even despite those obstacles, we can all still stand in this greatness. See, one of the things that got me through that difficult time of dealing with my cousin and making the choice of which way I was going to go, I came across a poem by our mother, Maya Angelou. And the poem is entitled, Our Grandmothers. And in the poem, she says, I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. And when I read it at that point in time, it actually shook the ground that I was standing on. I came to recognize that it wasn't just about me. It wasn't just about me and my ego. It was about those who have come before me. Those who I'm privileged enough to have their blood running through my veins. So today when I'm speaking to you, I'm not speaking to you as one. You see one, you just see Jeff, but it's not just one. I come to you as one, but I stand as 10,000. The 10,000 who have come before me. In a few weeks, you're going to graduate. You may not get a chance to physically walk across that stage, but you are still going to graduate. But when you receive that diploma, you stand there as one, but you come there, you stand there as 10,000. When you decide to go to university next year, when you decide to open that business, when you decide to strive for those dreams and those goals, as difficult as it might be, as tough as it might be, you might have people telling you that you can't do it, you can't achieve. You might stand there as one, but you have 10,000 who come behind you. That means you inherit their resilience. You inherit their brilliance. You inherit all the things that they give you. Can I tell you, you have to understand the ones who have come before you, the things that they've had to endure. I promise you, when you study some of the things that our ancestors had to go through the slavery era, it was easier for them to take their own lives. That would have been easier. To be a woman and have your child snatched away from you. To be a man and be beaten in front of your wife and your children. It would have been easier for them to end it all. But they saw something bigger. They saw a future for you, a future for me. People they would never get to meet. And they recognize at some point in time, life is going to be different. And if I continue to endure how difficult this is, I will make a life for my ancestors to come. They planted seeds and grew a tree that gives shade that they never got a chance to sit under. That you and I today get a chance to sit under. So although we know that we live in a world that oftentimes doesn't treat us with the level of respect that we need, we continue to see the racism, the discrimination, the differences in terms of how we are treated. When I walk down the street, someone is clenching their purse. When my wife walked into the store to buy her wedding dress 12 years ago, they told her that she can't afford anything in that store. We continue to face these things, but understand, as difficult as it is, because there's times you're going to want to pull your hair out. There's times that you were so frustrated in 2020. There's certain days that I'm glad you didn't run into me because I was so frustrated. I was not the positive guy that I am right now. Because it brings on frustration. But we always want to understand, we always want to remember that I stand here as one. I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. And the day that you recognize, the day that you see your value, the day that you see how awesome you are, the day that you see your worth, the day that you love the skin that you're in, you love the hair that comes from your head, you love the shape of your body, you love your scars, you love your stretch marks, you love all the gifts that God has given you. That is the day that there's no one that can stop you in this world. There will be no hater. There will be no doubter. There will be no naysayer. There'll be no racist. There'll be no mother or no father. There'll be no teacher or no principal. There'll be no boss, no manager. There'll be no prime minister. There will be no president. There is no one that can stop you from standing at the greatness that you were created to stand in. But you have to be able to look at yourself and see the value in you. Because when I see you, I see the king in you. When I see you, I see the queen in you. I see the value in you. I see what you can bring to this world. I see the greatness that you walk in. I see the ancestors that follow behind you. I see how proud you make your ancestors. But you have to be able to see it within yourself. You have to be able to see your own value in your own worth. And when you're able to see that, it'll make you absolutely unstoppable. So just remember that you are created to be great. You are created to do amazing things. And although we are going to continue to face these obstacles, although we continue to battle the situations that we see with discrimination and racism, we are still able to step through. Why? Because I come as one, but I stand as 10,000. My friends, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Jeff, first off, I'll speak first for Juan, and if you want to add something, but I just wanted to thank you so much for this incredible presentation. We do have time for questions, and I'll allow students to start submitting them now, but I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being so vulnerable and being so motivating. You speak wonderfully. I remember when we first came in contact last year for you to come to ADYC in person and how heartbroken we both were that you weren't able to come. But I remember the team constantly going on your Instagram page and us watching your videos, and you somehow still found a way to exceed our expectations.
Wow.
You were absolutely incredible. And if anyone could have done the theme justice, it was you. You absolutely killed it. Rowan, I don't know if you have anything to add, but.
You said it all, but thank you so much. That was so heartwarming the whole time. We were holding back tears talking about that. But thank you so much, and thank you for sharing all your stories with us. And you are such an amazing speaker, and I know everyone else enjoyed that presentation, so thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. I do recognize the value of just really giving it all when the opportunity arises. Because as I talked about, you never know who's on the other side. You never know what someone else is going through. And so it's important to really, when you're speaking to people, speak to them with care. And so I'm so delighted to do that today. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And as we're waiting for questions to come in, if you don't mind putting up that one slide near the end that you wanted students to screenshot, just because a few students didn't have a chance to.
Yes,
we'll have
absolutely.
that up on the screen, and then we'll get to a few of the questions. We have a couple coming in already. Awesome. Alrighty. So the first question is from Bo. Do you think the ultimate goal is to not have a Black History Month at all because we're not celebrating Black history all year round?
I believe that that would be the ultimate goal. And I say that because, of course, I believe that we should be able to get to a world where everybody is treated equally, where everybody's treated fairly, and everyone's history and future is considered the same. And so if we ever get to that goal, then yeah, we can do away with Asian Heritage Month and Women's History Month and Black History Month because everybody has the same opportunity to be celebrated. We know that's not the case now. So I say we run with it. I say we show the world who we are, we show the world our greatness. And one of the things as well, oftentimes when we talk about Black history, because the word history, we always think back. But there are people right now today who are just creating amazing things, who are doing awesome things that should be celebrated as well.
Awesome. And yes, it was that slide. Perfect.
Oh, yes.
All right, Rowan, you can ask the next question.
Okay, just one moment. My computer is kind of.
Oh, I can ask it
if you don't mind.
Yeah, totally. What is justice in your eyes when it comes from the victim side? Can there be a victim approach, and who should be the bigger person?
That's a big question. So in my years, my experiences, I have been working in law enforcement for 16 years. And within that time frame, I have worked many years in the Special Victims Unit. So working with people who are victims and people who are accused of sexual assault and physical abuse on children. And one of the things I say, because of course, as a human being, one of the toughest things you can go through is being a victim in that circumstance. One of the things I always speak about to the people who are victims and their families, that you cannot find justice in the justice system. You can't wait for that person to be found guilty in court to say, now I'm satisfied. You have to be able to find your peace elsewhere. And so when it comes to victimization, whatever it might be, I believe it's important that we find that peace elsewhere. Find it in your family, in your friends, in your hobbies, in the things that you can do in this world, in the changes you can make. Some of the greatest game changers in this world have done the things they've done because they've suffered. And they've recognized how hard it is, and they don't want other people to go through it as well. And so they've used that as fuel to help change the world. And so I think as a victim, again, I don't think it's about, which side wins or which side loses. It's unfortunate if you are a victim to something, but finding your peace is really important. And you're not always going to find it where you believe it's going to be.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. Finding your peace, exactly. From Mackenzie Ash, how do you deal with hate messages yourself being a public advocate? And if so, how do you cope with it?
You know what? I ignore them. I say that sometimes it's tough, right? Because we're human beings and we sometimes care what people think. And so sometimes you get these hate messages and sometimes it's like, what's up with that? But for the most part, I ignore them. And I say that because, we live in a world where social media is where it's at. And people will slide up in your DMs or leave comments on your pictures. And, it's hateful. The way I look at it, though, is that for them to read your post or to see your picture and to take the 10 to 15 seconds to spew hate, that speaks more about them than it does about you. That you have the time to actually sit there and type out something hateful, that speaks about your character. You have time to do. I don't have time to do that. I got things I got to do. I got lives to change. I got money to make. I got things to do. And you're sitting there trying to hit me with, a negative emotion. And so I look at it that way. And so, again, we're always going to have haters, doubters. Sometimes it's strangers. Sometimes it's your own mama. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the truth. And it's important for us to understand that in life, you're going to have goods and bads. And no matter what you do, the most loved celebrity, whoever that might be, has haters. And so that person, those people are always going to be there. So do your best to not take in the negativity that they're saying, because it's stopping you from stepping into the greatness that you should be stepping in.
Exactly. Yeah, not everyone is going to be your cup of tea. You shouldn't let that deter you from being who you are. I love that. Sakura wants to know, what was learning about Black history like in Canada compared to the States?
Growing up, I learned nothing. I learned nothing growing up. I grew up in school. I was in high school in the 90s. I just aged myself there. Yes, at that point in time, I learned nothing. And it's unfortunate because when you don't, I think representation matters. It's so important to see someone who resembles you, who speaks like you, who's from your neighborhood, and then you can start to see yourself in that role. And when that information is absent, you have individuals who sometimes can feel lost because they don't feel included. And so I think it's so important, again, like now that we live in an age where you pick up a cell phone, you can Google anything. It's on us as individuals to start doing our own research, because we can't wait for the big system of a school system or, you know, the government politics to make changes because it's not happening fast enough. And while it's not happening, there's people who continue to drop out and not see value in themselves. So as individuals, you know, social media is great. You find something about some history, share it, let people know. You know what I'm saying? Because now it allows them to see, oh, there was an amazing person named Matthew DaCosta that spoke 5 languages. I'm struggling with French. I can't even speak French, and he knows 5 languages. Like, okay, if he did it, I can do it as well. Representation matters. And so if you have that history, share it.
I love that. I love that. And then last question from Kiana. Why is there a stigma of Black mental illness, and how do we remove it?
That's a good question. You know, what I love about as generations move on, you know, they talk about being woke, right? I think that, you know, the younger generation is more woke, so to speak, than the last generation, because at one point in time, you know, my parents are from Jamaica. And so, you know, the Caribbean thinking sometimes about mental health is that person is mad. You know, you just kind of leave them where they are. You don't address it. But as we start to mature as human beings, and again, the generations move on, we start to understand that it's more to just that. There's really something that can be handled and even taken care of if that person is given the right attention, medical attention, you know, therapy, whatever it might be. And so I believe we're becoming more aware of what mental health is as time goes on. You see a lot more about let's talk and, you know, conversations about mental health than you saw 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And so it's important that we continue this conversation because a lot of people are going through some stuff. I'm not a doctor by any means, by any stretch of the terms. I'm not a doctor. But one of the things that we know in society, they speak about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And, you know, that's usually reserved for people who are fighting in the war, things that they've seen. But the truth is that a lot of people who come from tough neighborhoods, who have seen dead bodies, who have seen shootings, I believe, in my opinion, that many of them may suffer from that as well. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not here to diagnose. But my point being is that there's a lot of people walking around that are having a tough time in life. And if we continue to ignore them, then that problem never helps itself. So I think, again, as we mature as people and the next generation who's more aware of what's going on, we continue to have the conversation about mental health and really encourage people to get the help they need if they need to.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, and one more question just popped up in the chat.
Yeah.
Why do you think that Black excellence isn't talked about a lot in Caribbean countries? This is an interesting question.
That's an interesting one as well. You know, that might take some digging. We might have to readdress that one. You know, and it could be really how many of these countries were established. Again, we know that, you know, a lot of the people who are within the Caribbean were brought over as people who were enslaved. And it was the broken thinking that many people had early on that might be continued today. And so that could be it. I know I don't specifically have an answer. However, that's something I love to dig into and really have a deeper conversation on.
Awesome. Well, those are all the questions that were in the chat. Jeff, I just wanted to thank you one more time for this incredible presentation. You definitely left an impact on all of us, the team, I'm sure the students, the teachers. You were amazing today. Thank you.
Thank you so much again for allowing me to be in your space. And I encourage you all just to continue to be great. Again, we always come across problems and obstacles, but if we all do our part, we just all need to do our part and really just continue to strive and find our own greatness, and we can pull others along and you know, really make our community great.
Yeah, definitely. Someone just said, I wish I could give him a round of applause. That was amazing. I can assure you, if this was in person, you would have everyone on their feet, sir.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it again.
Of course. All righty, I'm gonna start sharing my screen again. Awesome. Alrighty, so now we would like to very excited to welcome the Dean of Faculty of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences, Dr. Marcello Guerini, who would like to say a few words. He has come to the conference over the past few years, and Dr. Guerini, I'll pass it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Ferdoza. My video's disabled from the host, so just a heads up on that. So yeah, thank you. And thank you, Jeff, and all our speakers today. Really, really terrific stuff. We really appreciate everything you're helping us to do here today. Basically, African Youth Diaspora Conference is about belonging. And unfortunately, human beings have figured out a lot of different ways to make people feel like they don't belong. Sometimes it's based on race, sometimes sex and gender, sometimes sexual preference, sometimes ethnicity, sometimes religion, sometimes economic class. It goes on and on and on, unfortunately. So a little over a decade and a half ago, some people got together and started thinking, how can we make students, specifically Black students, feel like they actually belong in university? And you'll be hearing more about some of the founders of this conference. Some others will speak to that, so I won't get into details on that. And so for a little over a decade and a half, we've been running this conference, hoping we can do our part to make Black students feel like they actually belong in university. We know a lot of harm has been done in the past, and we want to do what we can to rectify that. We hope we made you feel like you belong in university, and not in a high pressure way. We understand that there can be good reasons why, maybe the first thing you want to do after high school, it might not be come to university, and we get that, we respect that. So, it's not a high pressure thing. It's just that, if one of the reasons you don't want to go to university is you don't feel like you belong here, that's on us. That means we haven't done our job, making you feel like you're welcome. And so, what this conference is about is not telling you have to go to university right away, right after high school, but just essentially assuring you that we believe you belong here. In the end, it's your call to decide whether you want to do that straight away after high school. But we believe that you belong here. We want to do our part to rectify some of the past harms that have been done in making Black students feel like maybe they don't belong. If you have suggestions as to maybe some things we could do better in terms of making Black students feel like they belong in university, we're sincere when we say that we hope that you provide us some feedback. We're always making some changes year to year to try and make the conference better. And I just want to say a few thanks. Thanks to you, Ferdoza, and Juan, and all the students who help make this conference possible, because really, without all of their work, it just wouldn't work out. Andrew Allen, thank you. I mean, Andrew's been working on this conference pretty much from the beginning, and a longtime supporter and advocate for this conference, and does a lot of organizational work. So thank you, Andrew, for all that you do for us. Yvonne Zimmerman provides clerical support out of the FAST Dean's office. Thank you, Yvonne, for all that work. To all our high school partners, thank you. Obviously, this conference wouldn't be possible without your support. And during a pandemic, it's just that much more complicated sometimes getting all the logistics right. This is the first time we've done this conference online, so we appreciate your patience and your hard work and your dedication to this. So thank you. And obviously, most importantly, thanks to all the students who participated in this. This conference is about you, it's for you, and we really couldn't do this if it wasn't for your sort of active involvement in this. So thanks again to everyone who made this conference work. Thank you. Off to you, Ferdoza.
Thank you.
So much, Dr. Marcello Guarini. Thank you for the kind words. Now we will be welcoming Dr. Andrew Allen to honor those who found the conference.
Okay, thank you. I also wanted to add my thanks and show of appreciation to the Dean, Dr. Green. Thank you for your support over the years. I really appreciate this. Earlier this morning, I mentioned that there were 3 people who started the African Diaspora Youth Conference in 2004, Dr. Cecil Houston, Mr. David Watkins, and Mr. John Stolarski. We wanted to take a moment just to honor them as the founders of the African Diaspora Youth Conference. And we do this in the memory of Dr. Houston, who's no longer with us. Mr. Watkins is teaching today. So I'm going to read a short statement from Mr. Solarski, and I will share some pictures afterwards of some of the things that happened setting up the conference. So Mr. Solarski says, I'm honored to have been invited to join you for the 2021 Diaspora Youth Conference. He says, I regret, however, that we are not meeting in person at the traditional and beautiful setting of the University of Windsor campus. For me personally, involvement with the Diaspora Conference was without a doubt the highlight of my teaching career. With over 42 years of teaching, counseling, coaching in a secondary school and post-secondary level, behind me, nothing, he's retired now, quite compares to the satisfaction and joy that I've experienced through my involvement with the Diaspora Conference. I hope you have found today's events and activities to be meaningful and thought-provoking. If there was a practical lesson, he says, that I've learned from my involvement with the conference, and it was to run with your dreams, follow your heart. Don't allow yourself to be discouraged if you encounter initial setbacks or disappointment. Secondly, he said, remember that there are often times that we cannot succeed on our own. He said, don't be afraid to reach out for help. Access your allies. Allow others to assist you. So often teams achieve much, much more that which individuals cannot. Our successful conferences require tremendous cooperation and partnership, and all those involved share in this success. So we model that teamwork. One of the questions that Mr. Solarski gets asked, and he says this oftentimes as a white man, why are you so passionate about the African Diaspora Youth Conference? And he says he recalls an impactful meeting which he had in 1996 with a kindergarten teacher from Harlem. And she had a request that he says it's hard to forget. Her words were, teach my babies. And he says with that request coming from a Black woman, he knew what she meant. And after 5 years later, he said he was fortunate enough to meet up with his teaching colleague, Mr. Dave Watkins. And he said Dave came into his life and he learned a lot from Dave, from Mr. Watkins' teaching of his African Canadian Studies class. He says, I began to understand too many of our Black students were not familiar with their histories. And unfortunately, for those who had some sense, it tended to be tainted with negativity. This attitude was repeatedly evident when Mr. Watkins would initiate his course by asking his students, what does it mean to be Black in Canada? And he says, as a school counselor, I was fully aware of the statistics that show that too few Black students opted for post-secondary education for a variety of reasons, to go to college or particularly to university. It just wasn't in their plan. So Mr. Watkins would always ask his students, he would say, challenge them, he would say, you cannot plan your future if you do not know your past. In other words, you will not be able to plot a chart to move forward if you do not know where you come from. These same sentiments were reiterated at the very, very first Diaspora Conference in 2004, when the keynote speaker at that time, Dr. Howard McCurdy, stated that amnesia is a terrible thing, especially when it affects an entire race. He also wanted you to know that it was Dr. Houston who reached out to both Mr. Watkins, Mr. Solarski, and Mrs. McPherson, because they were alumni of the University of Windsor. And the University of Windsor was the first in Canada to offer a program in diaspora studies that welcomed students from communities in Ontario as well as Michigan. And he says, as teachers, we strive to, as much as possible, be equitable and non-preferential in our treatment of students, but sometimes there's a difference between equity and equality. And you have to realize that extra effort, more time, and a different approach, hence the Diaspora Conference, was required to create an equal or level playing field for individuals or for groups. And he said the Diaspora Conference recognizes that, and recognizes the need to make Black students more receptive of the idea of spending time on a university campus. He also said that he thinks what was done years ago was quite innovative. In a day of an age of Black Lives Matter, perhaps we were just a little ahead of our time, he says, because we always realize that Black students do matter. And he ends by saying that overall, the hope is that our students get to know themselves, get to know each other a little better, gain confidence by recognizing their abilities, see success in people who of all walks of life who look like them, and realize that post-secondary education is attainable and the doors are open to as many career opportunities as possible. Your imagination is your limits. So over the years, we've had hundreds, in fact, thousands of students from Toronto, Windsor, and the Detroit area, and who've come to the Diaspora Conference. And their testimonies during the conference, even after attending the conference, and I keep running to students, former students who attended the conference, that for many participants, they've said that this experience has altered their lives. It's been positive, it's been life-changing. And he ends by saying, as an educator, nothing provides you with a greater sense of satisfaction than to see that through your efforts, your students succeed. And time again, he says, I'm blessed with the same satisfaction as a result of my involvement with the African Diaspora Youth Conference. Thank you, Mr. Solarski. Thank you, Mr. Watkins. And thank you, Dr. Cecil Houston. I miss you, brother. Fredoza, if you can run the slides. There it is. So this is the 2004, the annual, what I'm calling the annual International Diaspora Youth Conference. And 2005 with Dr. Cecil Houston is making a speech, signing the agreement with the TDSB and the University of Windsor, and the official handshake between the Dean at the University of Windsor with the director of the Toronto District School Board in 2005. This is a year, the conference is in 2004. So after that success, we decided that we were going to sign an agreement. So next slide. And on the left is the two founding principals. And that's Father Joe Redican in the middle of Holy Redeemer High School in Detroit. And on the right is, I think we got the pictures here mixed up. And so the captions are mixed up. But on the picture on the left, the gentleman on the right is Libert Castillo. He's the principal of Weston Collegiate, and that's Dr. Houston on the left. So the picture on the right, there are two students from Weston Collegiate and a teacher from Weston Collegiate with Dr. Houston. We can go to the next slide. And I'm getting these pictures from John Solarski. He went into his archives, found a picture, and then I thought, as a way of honoring them, and I like the idea of these gentlemen planting seeds that grew into a tree, that sprouted branches, that sprouted leaves, and we're in the shade and basking in the glory of the shade. Just to point out too, I want to highlight that Mr. Watkins was a recipient of the 2007 Governor General's Award for Excellence in Teaching Canadian History. And he says that studying history is a key to self-determination. Next slide. So a big part of the conference is the African Diaspora Scholarship or Endowment Fund, or bursary, in the amount, and Dr. Houston was able to secure that funding of $1,000. And you were right today in the Kahoot survey, $1,000 created for students who attend the conference and apply and are accepted to any program at the university. Just a little bit of a correction, it doesn't have to be within the same year. We are keeping records, and once you come to the university, please apply. There's students who come to the university and don't apply. You let us know when you come. We'll look back in our records to see if you qualify for the scholarship. And that's the last slide. Oh, one more slide. So Mr. Watkins wanted to share this picture, and he says, thank you for carrying on the vision of Dr. Houston, Mr. Watkins, and himself. And there's a picture of the three of them. And again, Dr. Houston is not with us anymore. And then a picture going back to the signing of the agreement with Senator Donald Oliver being there, and one of my colleagues, Dr. Richard Douglas Chin, who was the chair for the conference for a couple of years, and with Mr. Solarski and Mr. Watkins. And I think that's the last slide.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much, Dr. Allen, and thank you for clarifying some of the scholarship information. So now we would like to get an idea of something that you have taken away from today, something significant. If you guys have never used a Mentimeter before, it's a mind map or a large word cloud. So I'm going to ask everyone to pull out their phones and go to mentimeter.com. And I'm going to pull up the Mentimeter right now. Alrighty, everyone can see it? The code up there is 4800-66101. And it can be through the workshops, something that you learn through the workshops, through our keynote presentations, through our presentations, anything that you have taken away from today. Just throw it up. The words will appear in a few moments. Oh, and Brandon also sent the link into the chat. Thank you, Brandon. Empowerment, that's a good one. Love, oh my God, they're coming in quick.
Empowerment's up there. A lot of you are feeling empowered.
History is a big one. Adversity.
We have respect, acceptance.
Oh my God, this is so cool. I've never done it with this many people before, so just like the fact that it keeps refreshing is so exciting. Love.
Grind.
I see perseverance. Self-worth.
Advocacy, that's big.
Love myself, that's an important one. A wonderful takeaway from Jeff's presentation.
Mm-hmm. Appreciation.
Mm-hmm. The biggest one so far is history. A lot of you guys have learned a bit of history today, which makes me feel really, really happy. Achievement is resistance. Keep working hard, absolutely. Fill your space, absolutely.
Coming together.
Education is key.
I am worth it.
Beautiful. Courage is getting a little bigger.
Resilience too.
And the code, if you're having trouble with the code, it's also right at the top there. So 4800-6601. Unity is a new one. Being strong.
Choosing. Support.
Culture, I matter. Always be you.
All these words are perfect with our theme.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, Roman. They all tie in perfectly with the power of you. All of them, all of it plays a part in the power that you hold. Black brilliance, being strong, self-wellness. Wow.
Strength.
The importance of loving you. Beautiful. One of my favorite ones is fill your space. I really like that one.
Same.
Beautiful. Alrighty. I'll keep it up for a couple more seconds since it's still refreshing.
Okay.
I am enough. Grind if you want to shine. This is Mahari's workshop title. Love that. You can make a difference. Absolutely. Everyone in this call. Beautiful. Alrighty, thank you guys so much. This was really exciting, seeing all the words come up. You guys really did take a lot from today. I'm gonna head back to the main slideshow now. Alrighty, so we're gonna give a bit of scholarship info. I'll let you start that off, Rowan.
Okay, so as many of you know, attending this conference allows you to receive a $1,000 scholarship from the University of Windsor.
Yep, so the bursaries will provide encouragement to students who might otherwise not have the opportunity for a university education, and it encourages them to kind of continue their life goals, and it will be given to students on the basis of need.
So to receive this bursary, you must attend the ADYC conference, then you must attend the University of Windsor, and you will just, so I need clarification.
Yeah, we're gonna, quick edit. You don't have to attend the University of Windsor the same year you went to the conference. Dr. Allen cleared that up, but you can take advantage of the scholarship. If you've come to the conference and you end up coming to the University of Windsor, we have the records, we have your name. Definitely take advantage of it. And if you have any questions regarding the scholarship, let's say you're planning on attending the university this upcoming fall, anything regarding the scholarship, you'll ask Yvonne Zimmerman. I put her email right there on the screen. She is the queen of knowing everything about this scholarship. She will help you out to the fullest.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and now we're going to jump into our virtual university showcase with Sherry Laurie. Please welcome Sherry Laurie, one of the amazing student recruitment officers for the University of Windsor. Oh, is Sherry a panelist? Oh, Sherry's not on the call yet. That is a-okay. We will quickly talk about the evaluation form and then we'll come back for Sherry's presentation. So we will be sending students, because we are coming close to the end, but not quite yet. We're going to be sending an evaluation form for the students to fill out. Not only will this help us improve on what we did this year, being that it is the first online conference, we're always willing to learn, always willing to grow, willing to see what we can improve on, but it also will help us get a better understanding of the students that came today, because there was a lot of moving around. The evaluation form is anonymous, but the only thing that we ask is your email so that we can confirm who attended today. And you're basically going to answer what part of the day was your favorite, what would you like to see differently next year, possible keynotes you would like to see next year. This is an opportunity for you to voice your opinions on how we did with our very, very first online conference. So we're gonna give Sherry a few minutes to pop into the call. In the meantime, I would like you to enter into the chat why you submitted specific words in the Mentimeter. So for the individuals who said, you know, fill up my space, or encouragement, or history, I want you to give a little more explanation as to why you said that, where did you learn that, what presentation inspired you to submit that, and we'll be reading them out loud. Rowan, I want to ask you, what is one specific takeaway that you had from your presentation, your workshop?
I would have to say I took away that I am worth it, and I've always been worth it, but sometimes you just need that reminder that motivation, and Jeff definitely gave me that motivation that
Yeah.
like we all needed, being inside all the time and sometimes not getting to do what we always do. So that was beautiful, and getting to hear that felt great.
I agree 100%. McCanty said, as it for history, as it is a way for us to learn from the past and improve our present and future. It's a very, very good point. A lot of people will say there's no point in taking the negativities that are attached to us in the past. We just need to move forward from it. But in reality, it does make us who we are. And if we just choose to ignore that, no one realistically will benefit. Sakura says, I chose interactiveness because of how the other students were asking questions and having intriguing question at that. Yes, you guys were so involved in the chat today. It warmed my heart seeing everyone eager to ask questions, be engaged with the keynote speakers. I heard it was just as engaging in a lot of the workshops. And it warms my heart knowing that all of you really were taking it seriously and you wanted to get involved with all of the speakers today. Abigail says, for history, because history was the biggest word, because history that is being taught and learned at school is only through one perspective. Kind of relating back to what Jeff said regarding representation, having different perspectives allows for different insights on history that we may not have even known before. Avari, oh, actually, you go, Rowan. Yeah, they're coming in quick.
Well, I said love because I have a new appreciation for the people around me and the things I have. I love that. It's always great to love the people around you, love yourself. And through loving others, I feel like we learn how to love ourselves better.
Mm-hmm.
Samantha said, I put grind because Mahari's workshop was so inspiring. It really reminded me to get up and do something because if you don't grind, you don't shine. That's for sure. I've actually attended some of Mahari's in-person workshops, and he will for sure teach you how to grind and how to shine.
How to grind and how to shine, most definitely. Audrey said, I said perseverance because, it popped back up. When the keynote speakers were talking a common action was people preserving and sticking through the tough times. Yes, definitely. A lot of most inspiring people have really hard stories, have really tough stories, but it shows that you can take what you learn from those experiences and grow as an individual, and maybe one day pass off what you've learned to other students. Maybe when you grow older, you can take your experiences that you have now in high school and share it with someone else. Naicha says, I enjoyed hearing all the stories because I really believe all our stories matter because they live on even after we're not. Yes, absolutely. Someone can say something that will stick with you for a lifetime, and you can pass it on to your children, generations for generations. I definitely agree with that 100%.
So a lot of these are talking about Mahari's workshop. So Mahari, I guess you had a huge impact on everyone. I'm gonna go to a different one by Lynn. She said, I chose empowerment and motivation because both the guest speakers were empowering and motivating. I liked the question Jeff asked, and it got me thinking deep and hard. Their story and their stories shared were motivating and inspiring. That is for sure. Both of the keynotes took us along their journeys in life, and we can learn a lot from what they went through, and from people's stories, we can learn what to do differently or what to do the same. We have from Alicia Harris. She said, I said beauty because this conference showed how beautiful the minds of my generation. That is so sweet. That is so sweet.
I love that. Oh my goodness. Oh, also, this is an opportunity. Me and Rowan are both university students. So if you wanted to ask questions regarding our experience at university, we're an open book. We will be fully transparent and honest with you all. So please don't hesitate to ask us questions about our university experience too. For being college student leaders. Thank you, Adam. It warms our heart to be here. We were up super late last night, like getting ready for today.
Yeah. I actually attended the Diaspora conference as a student like since grade 10, and I made sure every year like I wanted to return. It was so impactful. And I remember during the student panel, I was asking all the student panelists so many questions, and I did learn a lot. So I really encourage you guys to like ask us questions and just learn about the university experience at the University in Windsor and in university in general.
Before we go, I realized we skipped a few. Lynn said, they were coming so quickly, I didn't realize there were so many more. Yeah. Lynn said, I chose empowerment and motivation because both the guest speakers were empowering and motivating. Very true. I like the question Jeff asked, and it got me thinking deep and hard. Their story and stories shared were motivating and inspiring. Yeah, Jeff's presentation moved a lot of us. I was trying to remain composed while I was thanking him. Alicia said, I said beauty because this conference shows how beautiful the minds of our generation can be. Very, very true. It always is amazing seeing young minds and young students contribute their thoughts and opinions with these really big topics and these really big subjects. Abdullahi said, I said empowerment because we are all here together to build each other up. Really love this conference. Thank you. We're glad you're loving it.
Sherry is in, so if you can promote her, please, Brandon, and then we will get back to the questions after Sherry's presentation.
Where is she? Is she on the attendee side?
Chris.
I don't see her.
Crystal just said she's in. Let me check.
Can you just confirm her username?
I don't see her on the attendee side.
So her name is Student Recruitment. That's what. Yep.
All right, I got her.
Thank you.
Awesome. Alrighty, well, I'll reintroduce Sherry as she's coming in. We're gonna have an amazing virtual university showcase from one of our amazing student recruitment officers, Sherry Laurie. Sherry.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, yes, we can.
Awesome.
Welcome. Did you need to share your screen?
I would like to.
Alrighty, then I'll stop sharing. Let you take over from here.
Perfect, as I'm kind of like looking between a few screens right now. Let me get all set up here. I'm gonna see if this works. You might see my children right now. Is that what you see?
No, not at all. Your green screen is perfect. I didn't even realize you were at home.
Okay, so can you tell me what you see? I've shared at this point.
Oh, yes, we see your background.
Okay, give me one more second. Let me exit out of this. Let me know when you see the presentation.
We see the window, yeah.
You see the window. And now I'm going to make this go to my monitor 2. And from beginning. Now, do you see the
Yes,
full
we
screen?
do. Yes, we do.
Hey, now we're so close here. And then, okay, I think I'm good. So, if anything goes wrong, just interrupt me.
You're fine.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you two ended on that topic of what's it like to be a student, because that flows right into what I'm going to talk to you about today. So my name is Sherry, and I am the Student Recruitment Officer for the Faculty of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. And I'm so happy to have this opportunity in this crazy world that we are living in to be able to come in and talk to you about your education, because education is never a bad idea. And I know that it's late in the day and you've been online and attending these really great breakout rooms all day. So you're probably starting to wear down a little bit, but such an important piece to this puzzle is knowing what possible options you have right here at UWindsor. So when it comes to your future, I hope that I'm able to talk to you a little bit about each of our different faculties that we have at UWindsor. So as we begin every gathering, we meet, whenever we meet together, we always want to honor the land in which we meet. So I would like to share a land acknowledgement. On our campus sits on the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy of First Nations, comprised of the Ojibwa, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi. So we do acknowledge that there are a few places on earth that someone before us has not called home. And I'm just gonna check in with Fardoza. Is everything still good on my screen? It's moving with me? Perfect.
Yes, you're good.
Awesome to hear. Always love when technology does not fail you. So I am Windsor proud. I am a proud grad. I have my Bachelor of Arts in English Literature, and I've minored in Communications, Media, and Film, and in Sociology. So I'm also a proud employee. I've now worked here for the last 19 years. And some of the reasons why we are Windsor proud is because we're considered a mid-sized university. So we have about 16,000 students. So that's full-time, part-time, graduate, undergrad, that's everybody all together. So we're not the biggest school that's out there, but we're also not the smallest. And with that, we have 200 programs and so many ways to mix and match and do different things. And we have a 1 in 29 student faculty ratio. Like, that is such a big deal. For every 29 students, there is a professor available to you, and they will know your name. So when you're at a really large institution, it's hard to get that connection with a professor. We also are a diverse campus, and we promote inclusion, and we offer such a great hands-on learning environment. I wonder if anybody here today knows what they want to do. If you have your path, you're set, you know what your vision is, and you know what program it takes to get there. And if that is you, that's amazing. But if you're sitting here today and have absolutely no idea, that's completely okay too. That's kind of what I'm here for. And so I'm going to showcase what all of our faculties are. And I'm going to start off with my favorite faculty. And that's because it's the faculty that brought you here today. And it's also the faculty where my degree is housed from. So this is our largest faculty with so much opportunity to do lots of different things. So when I think back to when I was in high school and I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do, I did do a co-op at a local radio station. And I thought that that's what I wanted to have a career in. I wanted to be a journalist. The 6 o'clock news, that was gonna be this girl. So I started off in first year in CMF, and I realized that it wasn't my dream. And I changed my major into English, knowing that I would not become a teacher. So that's exactly what I believe to be the beauty of a FAST degree. I just can't tell you today exactly what you're going to do, because you could literally be anything. But what I can tell you is about our programs. So in FAST, we have those 3 different streams. So the arts, you want to think about things that are artistic. So dramatic art, drama, acting, drama in education, or the School of Creative Art. So music, visual arts, painting, drawing, sculpting, visual arts in the built environment, which is our partnership with architecture at the University of Detroit Mercy. The humanities are things like aeronautics leadership. Have you ever wanted to be a pilot but still have a degree all at the same time? English and philosophy, our languages, Greek and Roman studies. These are what encompasses those humanities. And then we have our social sciences. So this is things like sociology, criminology, psychology. So that study of society, how the brain works, how the mind works. Why do criminals do what they do? Okay? It's literally a science. And so the research methods of science are applied, but within a society. So other areas like history or communications, media, film, political science, social work, women and gender studies. So there's so many ways you can mix and match and double major and minor and do all these things that you don't need to know about just yet. You just need to know that they're available to you. And 55% of world leaders are graduates from these kind of programs. So just think you can do a Bachelor of Arts and then maybe later mix it on with a business degree or a Master's of Business Administration or a second degree in business or a minor in business. So if you're thinking about maybe business, you could want to be a business professional or an accountant, a team lead, or a project manager. Maybe you like the stock market, or you want to own a business. Maybe you want to run a business or do marketing for a company. You could enjoy sales. You want to wear a suit and you want to be a game changer in this world. So the Odette School of Business offers accounting and finance, human resources, marketing, supply chain and business analytics, and strategy and entrepreneurship. Or you can take a little bit of everything under that business administration. So some things that make us Windsor proud in business is that we are AACSB accredited. I know it's a lot of letters. So basically what that means is 5% of business schools worldwide hold that accreditation. So it puts Odette at a higher standard when it comes to your learning. So Odette also offers the fastest pathway to the CPA designation. So if you know you want to be an accountant, then this is a great pathway to consider. In business, it's a 1 in 17 student faculty ratio with an average class size of 39. So business also offers a co-op program giving you 3 placements to be able to build your resume. And we were the only Canadian university invited to participate amongst Ivy League US schools for the American parliamentary debate. So for every great business leader out there, there have been excellent teachers along their path. So who here wants to be an educator? Because wow, are our educators heroes right now. I have 2 little ones at home, and watching these teachers be able to pivot and transition to online has been phenomenal. So if teaching is in your future, you could possibly teach my son and daughter. So you mean a really big deal to me. So in our Faculty of Education, there's 2 different ways you can become a teacher. So one that's really unique is our concurrent program. And this is where you're doing your teachable subject area along with your Bachelor of Education all at the same time. So this eliminates that need to apply to Teachers College because you can come into it right out of high school. So this is a pathway straight from grade 12 into designing that future of becoming a teacher. Now, the other route to do it is what we would say is consecutive. So this is where you would do a degree first, that bachelor's degree, and then after, maybe in about your 4th year, you're starting to say, you know what, I think I want to be a teacher. And that's when you would apply to Teachers College or the Bachelor of Education, and you would do it for 2 years after you're done that first initial degree. So 2 different routes there that you can take in becoming a teacher. So some things that you can look forward to in our Faculty of Education are we are the only school west of Vancouver that offers the opportunity to obtain IB certification within the BEd program. So what does that mean? It's having IB curriculum will allow you to teach anywhere globally that offers IB curriculum. So it doesn't limit you to just being able to teach in Ontario. You could teach anywhere around the world that has that IB curriculum. And if you're wanting to travel, because one day we will travel again, There are opportunities in Tanzania and in China as well. Now, who are the students here today that really like science and math? You want to work really hard and maybe you're innovative. Well, we are leaders when it comes to engineering, education, and innovation. We were the first school to offer an automotive and environmental option within our mechanical program. And at the University of Windsor, you're not competing for spots in engineering. As a first-year student, it's a generalized year for all of our engineers. But if you do know what type of engineering that you would want to apply to, you can apply directly into it. So we have civil, electrical, environmental, industrial, and mechanical. And then within mechanical, there's some choices as well: aerospace, automotive, environmental, and materials. So in engineering, we are also Windsor proud that we offer a $1,000 scholarship for women entering into engineering. We have co-op opportunities for engineers, and we also have $80 million in labs where you can be working right there with your professors. And of course, we like to brag because we perform incredibly well at provincial and national and even international competitions. So we're often the highest placing Canadian university. So for example, our Hyperloop team, I will remind you, I have an English degree, so I have no idea what a Hyperloop is, but we were the first school, or the only school in Ontario, that was selected for that competition. And we made it to the final round of the competition and got to meet Elon Musk. So I might not know what a Hyperloop is, but I know who Elon Musk is, and that's a pretty big deal. Another competition that we rocked it was at a rocket competition. And so legit rocket science, like blowing rockets up into the air. And we placed third overall, and it was our first time we ever went out of 82 teams that were from all over the world. So when you think of those W schools that offer engineering, just remember we are seeing success on an international stage. Engineers also hold a soft spot in my heart because I married one. Now we have human kinetics, or also known as kinesiology. So depending on what curriculum your high school teaches, then you could know it as kinesiology. So our Masters of Human Kinetics is one of the best in the world. So what does that mean for you at an undergrad level? It means that those same professors that teach at a master's level, they also teach you at that BHK level. And last year, we were able to apply directly into our two streams. So there's movement science or sport management and leadership. The movement science side is more science-based. So it's more about how does the body physically move. So think of ergonomics and how I'm sitting incredibly wrong in my chair right now. Okay, so that would be a form of movement science, or physiotherapy or chiropractic, which I would need to fix me for sitting wrong in my chair right now. Then the other side is that sports management. And this is the more business side of sports. So think of sports as entertainment and the industry and how sports were able to pivot and be able to get back, and so they could provide that entertainment in our society. So that whole industry as a whole. But if we were to line up the last 200 graduates out of HK, they're going into so many different career paths. Everything from teachers and physiotherapists, going on into medical school. You could run the YMCA in your local community. The marketing director for the Detroit Tigers is a Windsor grad. You could be a recreation program manager or Parks and Rec for your town. The team doctor for the Ohio State Buckeyes, Windsor grad. The director of marketing for all of Nike in Europe, Windsor grad. So they're really a family in human kinetics with their building and labs attached right on to our athletics and recreation facilities. And little note for you, depending what grade you're in, we are building a brand new Lancer Sport and Recreation Center. So this is going to be a phenomenal addition to our current gym and track and indoor and outdoor fields. our pool. So it's student driven, and it's going to be such a hub of athletic and recreation. You move your body, your brain will work better. So we want to promote that physical movement while you're in your studies. Like, so hit the gym, go for a walk, do all these things. It will definitely benefit you. A lot of those who are thinking about human kinetics could also be thinking about nursing as well. And this is a very competitive program to get into, but it is amazing because we offer clinical experience right from year one. So our nursing students are out in the hospital, they're in the community, they're in schools and getting experience from the start. So you'll be able to get hands-on as well in the classroom. So if you look just kind of over his shoulder in the background, those are our simulation mannequins. They can breathe and they can blink and they can give birth and they can even die. We're not going to kill them in your first year. But really, jokes aside, when you think about running your first IV, would you rather put it on a mannequin like this that could bleed out on you before you actually go out into the hospital setting and do it for real? Right? Our grads are also NCLEX ready. And so that is a test that you have to write to become a registered nurse. And we hold a 95% pass rate on the first attempt. The provincial pass rate is 79%. So at Windsor, we're preparing our students to pass that exam so they can go out and start working as RNs right after graduation. And many of our grads are hired by hospitals in Detroit and are still able to live in Canada and collect that American wage. So the former CEO of Sick Kids Hospital is also a Windsor grad, Dr. Mary Jo Haddad, who also has now come back to the University of Windsor as our first female chancellor. And our last faculty, but certainly not least, is our Faculty of Science. So we are a destination science program. So not only is Windsor the destination to go to for science, when you're here, the opportunities to do science all over the world are there for you as well. So the Dean of Science, his name is Chris Hauser, like the Dean himself, like the head of science. You'll be able to call him Chris. You'll see him around. He'll be playing Jenga with students in the lounge, but you could do research with him in Costa Rica. That's right. For 5% of your science degree, the Dean of Science will take you to study the rip currents and sea turtles and give you a machete and send you out into the rainforest. So that is undergrad research at Windsor. Science has a 1 in 16 student faculty ratio, and we are one of the best undergraduate research schools in Canada, with 65% of our students getting paid to do research. We recently opened our Essex Center of Research, so a state-of-the-art facility dedicated to research and science. There's brand new labs and instruments and meeting rooms and so much more dedicated to be able to make cancer history, materials chemistry, medical physics, you name it, the science is happening. And science also gives away $3 million in scholarships a year, and we're higher than the provincial average when it comes to acceptance into medical school. So that leads me next onto professional programs, things like medical school. There's many opportunities at Windsor for you to continue that studies. So not only can you obtain a degree, like you have it in you to be able to come for higher education, get a bachelor's degree, but then if you still want to grow even more after that, you can go on to a master's program or a professional program. So some of our professional programs are our Windsor campus of the Schulich School of Medicine and Dentistry. So that is a medical school. We don't offer dentistry, but we do offer the medical component if you are looking to become a doctor. So you can look forward to being able to apply and stay right here in Windsor for that medical education. And we also have a world-renowned law school. And that has a very unique partnership with the University of Detroit Mercy, where you could do a dual JD and LLB, where you're going to be able to be qualified to practice law in both countries, the States and Canada. So a very unique pathway there. And all of our faculties offer those graduate degrees, as well as even staying on for masters and PhDs. So with all of that being said, what does admissions look like? So no matter what stage you're at in your journey, whatever grade you are in, then you want to start to think of, what do I need to go to post-secondary education? Are you on track within the courses that you're taking? Are you in applied? Are you in academic? Which way are you going? So there's still lots of pathways through college as well. So if you're transitioning to go to college and then use that as a stepping stone into university, that's completely possible as well. And many students are taking advantage of a transfer opportunity. So to get a better idea of how admissions work, I recommend hitting our website where you can get a view book sent right to you. And I believe if we have your addresses, we're going to send you a copy anyway. In that view book, you are going to see a chart. In that chart, I've given you a little snippet on the screen there just to get an idea that we're looking at your best 6 grade 12 U or M level courses. So if you are taking U and M level, then you are on track to be able to take university courses. And we're going to create your minimum average based on your best 6. So if you take more than 6, then we're going to be able to focus in on your best ones. Okay, so that can sometimes really help a student out. For example, English is required in any program that you're looking at, probably at any university you'd be looking at. You have to have grade 12 U English. Now let's say English wasn't your strongest subject. It's not everybody's. So if you have more than 6, then we can at least focus in on your best 6, and that English mark that you had to take, it can just sit over there to the side. Now, if there is a requirement for a specific grade in a subject, then that will be listed in the last column of that chart. So you want to look at what that minimum average is. Your average has to be above that average. The mean average is the average of the averages of students coming into university. So it's great to be sitting amongst your peers. It's even better to be above them. But if it is a non-competitive program, then as long as you meet the requirements, then you could be granted an admission. And the last column is those requirements. So making sure that you've taken any of the courses that you need to align yourself to get into those programs. Now, one reason that you want to get the best grades you possibly can in grade 12 is because you will be offered a lot of money. Now, right now, you're kind of exploring, you're choosing your adventure, you're figuring out what is going to be right for you, and you're going to have your reasons as to why you choose what you do. So for me, location was really important. You know, you might say, I only want to go at most 4 hours away. Okay, so for any of you in Toronto, Windsor's 4 hours away. Or some of you could be saying, I want to stay nice and close to home. So those who are from the Windsor area, then you have a great school right here in your backyard. So location could be a reason of things that you're considering while you make this decision. And then the program was another big reason for me. So I started off with, where offers journalism? What programs are out there? What's in college? What's in university? And that could help me start to narrow down where might I want to apply. So start doing that type of research as well. What programs might interest you to be able to think of where you might want to go? But the number one reason that I chose Windsor was they did offer me the most money. So think back to the minimum average from admissions. That same grade 12 U or M level, those best 6, is what's also going to give you your entrance scholarships. Free money is fantastic money. You want as much free money as you possibly can get. The University of Windsor offers $11 million in scholarships a year and bursaries. So there's automatic entrance awards. And this is simply based on your grades, where we want to reward you for doing so well in high school. So definitely take that time, buckle down, strive high. You have the ability. I know you can do it. So that way you can earn the best grade you can and get some of that automatic free money. But then at Windsor, we also care about your leadership, your community involvement. You know, what is all the things that makes you you? Are you teaching Sunday school, or maybe a lifeguard, a Timbit soccer coach? You've been in the local play of Annie. Whatever it is, then, you know, those are the things that make you who you are. And if you tell us about those things, there's a lot more money that's available inside our awards profile. So when you're in grade 12, around this time of year is when we're applying for all that money. So you want to make sure that you fill out your awards profile and look outside in the community as well. There is so much money out there that students just simply don't apply for. It is a lot of work, you know, but reuse that essay, you know, use whatever you had to use for this award, use it again for that one. Check in your guidance departments in high school. They're going to have access to money that's specific to your school and people graduating from it. I personally won money from the Royal Canadian Legion. What have I done for the Royal Canadian Legion? Like nothing. So you want to look to see what money is out there to be able to help finance your education. The other thing we do have is OSAP. So this is another opportunity to be able to get some government funding to help you get through school. We never want finances to be a reason that a student doesn't go on for future education. And I believe by attending this conference, you also have access to possible scholarships as well. So at the end of the day, you will all have a degree. What's going to make you different? What's going to set you apart? What will make you employable? And it's going to be the experiences that you have that you're going to touch on in those interviews. I can promise you, in no interview have I ever had, did they ask me, Sherry, what did you learn in third year Shakespeare? Nope, that question did not happen. But the questions that they did ask were things like, I see here that you were the volunteer coordinator of 120 volunteers. Can you talk to me about your leadership style? That's a question that they're going to ask. Things like co-op and volunteer internship placements and co-curricular transcript credit and Ignite jobs and clubs and societies and all of these ways that you can build your resume and make yourself marketable. Give yourself something to be able to talk about to set yourself apart. That degree, it backs you up. It says to the world that you have what it takes to read and write and think critically. You can communicate, you can problem solve, you can work in a group. That's what that degree says to the world. But what can you say in an interview that makes them want to hire you? Another question I got all the time was, tell me a time that you were adaptable. Well, the time that the plane touched down in Auckland, New Zealand, and I needed to figure out my life, that was a time I was adaptable. Go and explore the world. We have so much opportunity when it comes to exchange, and where you can go do your courses in Jamaica or Germany or Sweden or Australia, and then get that course credit as well. So a lot of scholarship dollars to be able to go and travel when the world opens up again. We don't actually recommend that you go on exchange until your third year. So let's hope that by the time you're in third year that we are traveling this world again. So hopefully you'll be able to embrace those types of opportunities and really build your experiences. It truly will be the experiences that you have that will make you employable after graduation. So what I want you to do is stay connected with us. The University of Windsor is such an amazing school, and you're here today because we want you here. So definitely reach out, whether you're grade 10, 11, 12, wherever you're at in your journey. Our uwindsor.ca/connect website was our way to pivot virtually. So our online events are there, so many videos of all of these faculties, unpacked and diving deeper on them. So whatever has sparked your interest today, follow up. Let's get in touch with each other. You can have a virtual coffee chat with me. You can take a virtual campus tour. So it doesn't matter where you are right now. We can still connect online, virtually together. Another great platform we have is our Ask.U Windsor. I use this every day. Any question I get, I go to Ask.U Windsor. It's like the Google of the University of Windsor webpage. I get it if you don't want to try and travel around our website. Just go here, ask it a question, and it will come up with answers and responses to your question. And if it doesn't give you what you're looking for, it can put you in contact with me. So with that being said, I am Windsor proud, and at the University of Windsor, you can be a change maker and make a global impact. So join me. And if you want to reach out to me directly, especially if you're interested in the Faculty of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences, you are welcome to write down my details there, and we will for sure connect. But I am so glad that we were able to have you on virtual campus today and be able to offer you this really great opportunity with this conference. And I hope that you'll consider the university in your future.
Thank you, Sherry. Oh, what a wonderful presentation. You killed it, as always. I'm going to draw attention to a link that Dr. Allen just sent into the group chat, or the call chat, for the Black Student Scholarship Initiative. This is not the ADYC scholarship, but if you are a Black student, it's a scholarship worth $250,000 that you can take advantage of. So definitely take advantage of that. Sherry, there is a question in the chat regarding the combined programs with the University of Detroit and the University of Windsor. Will students in that particular program be able to go to classes in Detroit, or will it be online?
So the two main programs that are combined with the states, so the law program, which you probably wouldn't be thinking about for quite a while, and that one, I believe you do take courses in the States as well, but you would have to be here too. And then unfortunately, the University of Detroit Mercy VABE program, the Visual Arts in the Built Environment, that one you have to be Canadian to be able to take that one. So yes, our Canadian students do go over to Detroit to take those courses, but if you're considering architecture, then you should, and you're from one of our Detroit school partners, then you will want to look at directly into their architecture program. Great question.
Yeah. And just one more general question from me, because I know that when I was in high school, I often thought about this question. At the University of Windsor, how easy, or what's the process like for students, let's say, who want to venture maybe into a different program? They went into a specific program, but now they're thinking about changing their mind. And how is the process at U Windsor like?
Do that, of course. So actually 50% of first year students change their major and change their mind. So I, for one, definitely changed my major, and I still graduated in 4 years. So if you stay within the faculty, then all of those things that you took in first year are relevant for whatever you switch into. So those credits all come with you. Now, where it gets a little trickier is if you decide to change faculty. So let's say you started off in human kinetics, and then you decided that psychology was right for you. Then that transition could be a little bit harder in that you do need to take those courses that were required for psychology, and maybe not all of those credits are going to transfer with you, but through really good academic advising, we'll be able to help you with that. And every faculty has advisors that are there to help you make that transition. And we have campus generalized advisors as well. So they can, determine if you change to this is what's going to happen. But for the most part, all of those credits are going to go with you. It just might mean you need to take a few extra required courses of that subject that you're transferring into or switching from. hopefully that helps.
Like, yay, no, that definitely did. I wish I had access to someone like you when I was in high school, Sherry. But yeah, as you can all see, Sherry has put up her email and phone number. So if you have any further questions, you can definitely let her know, and I'm sure she will get back to you as soon as she can. Oh, I think one person, a really quick question, one more. Can we sign up for co-op? The program I chose didn't give me the option to pick co-op.
Okay, so not every program does have a co-op option. So depending on what program you were thinking about, if it's something within the Faculty of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences, it likely does not have a co-op option, but we have lots of other experiential learning ways to get you that experience, and some could be paid as well, but it wouldn't be an actual co-op placement. So only some of our faculties have those specific co-op requirements.
Awesome. Alrighty, well, thank you, Sherry. I'm gonna take over the screen share now.
Awesome. Well, it has been a pleasure. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yes, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for sharing all of your wonderful knowledge. It was very beneficial.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Alrighty, everyone. So we have officially reached the end of our very first online African Diaspora Youth Conference. We're gonna give a handful of thank yous right now. First and foremost, I wanted to personally thank the entire team that worked this entire year to bring this together. Yvonne, Dr. Allen, Rowan, Crystal, Kamisha, and Sarah. Right and left hand, right and left leg wouldn't have been able to get to today without them, especially Yvonne and Dr. Allen. Another big special thank you to Dr. Robert Gordon and Marcello Guarini for coming in today and sharing a few words.
And I'd like to give a huge thank you to our coordinator, Ferdoza. She returned every week with so much love and joy, every Friday, every meeting. She really led the way to bring together this whole conference, and I enjoyed working with you, so thank you so much. We'd like to thank each keynote, Carrie Mason and Jeff Eddie Martin. Thank you for taking us along your stories, and you guys really impacted us. Thank you to each facilitator, and thank you for creating the workshops, and thank you for giving insight to each of the students. And I'd like to thank Sherry Laurie for the virtual university showcase and for all the extra information.
I wanted to give a big thank you to the Toronto District School Board. Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you to all of the volunteers and the teachers from TDSB. Today wouldn't have went as smoothly as it did if it weren't for all of you, and I am eternally grateful for that. I thank you guys so much. And a big thank you to the U Windsor volunteers who helped with the workshops today. I thanked a handful of them earlier because they weren't able to stay the full day, but your presence today made it run just as smoothly, and I am so appreciative of that.
And I'd like to give a big thank you to all the students who attended and all the teachers and chaperones. We really hope you guys enjoyed our conference. It's our first ever online conference, and we hope to see you guys again. And if you guys come to the University of Windsor, we hope you become a part of the Diaspora conference, and we can't wait to see you guys again.
Yeah. So once again, big thank you. This is the first time I've ever coordinated and actually executing it, because last year it was taken from my hands. So I'm really happy that I got to see it come to life. And hopefully next year we can see some beautiful faces in person, fingers crossed. But yes, thank you all so much.
Thank you.